right now.
Say that again?
Are you
There we
guys
go.
live streaming right now?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
ready?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm hitting it live.
Sitting in.
All right. So,
Wait, not.
you just relax.
Play
You
code.
just be you. You let us. All right, Mr. Doe. Got a lot of questions today. Most of them are about video games.
I have been dying to ask you this.
Yes.
What is your favorite video game?
Rainbow Six Siege.
Very nice.
Very nice, very nice.
Why don't you move that mic? There you go.
What did he
So,
say?
so you're
Rainbow?
looking a little thinner. What have you been doing? I know
Cardio, lots of cardio.
This guy. He's playing along.
You were recently abroad. How was your trip?
It was good. The workshop was tough.
Yeah? Did you do it?
Yes.
What was the process of the workshop, or like the steps? Like what you have to do in the workshop? I'm asking you. Like what'd you do in the workshop? Questions?
How to do business.
Oh.
Good question.
Oh, you sound crisp.
Okay. So, I think we're going to get started here pretty soon.
Should we inform? Someone said Chris got shorter.
What would you say happened? Why are you shorter, Chris? Okay. Oh, we are live. Hi, everybody.
All right, Chris is coming shortly. Hello.
Well, I think he's here already.
Oh. Chris still using that younger filter. Are we?
We're already good. We're live.
Oh, your head's hot.
Two doughs.
Here, I'll cut.
Okay. Are we ready?
We are rolling.
Okay. My camera's over there. Okay. Here's the intro. I guess you guys have been going live already? Okay, so hey, everybody, welcome to this edition of After Hours. We're starting a little early today. We're back with the Dream Team, aka Chill Boys. Guys, what's going on?
Not a lot.
Not much. Actually, a whole bunch of things.
So wait,
haven't
not a
seen in a
lot or
while.
a whole bunch?
That's just what people say, not a lot, but
I see. That's a default answer that you give.
Yes.
You don't know what's up. Okay. Should we get into it? As soon as we get into it, Jona goes running away.
We just want to check focus, make sure we're
Checking focus.
sharp
I see.
on our focus.
All right. Good. Very sharp.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Let's get going.
Who wants to go first?
Jeez.
Those are all the questions.
Knocking down the questions.
Yeah.
Okay. I see. All right.
Oh, jeez.
Aaron or Jonah?
Jonah has two good questions,
Oh,
and Ricky
Lord.
has one good one.
Okay.
Good.
So we have 3 questions.
Oh, the anxiety.
What's the topic of interest? It's been a little while since I've seen you
has.
guys.
It
The
has.
last time we
It
did
has.
this it's been like over a month, I think, because we had the interns in here and that went pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what's on your mind?
Alrighty. So, as someone who's constantly thinking ahead, how do I slow down and articulate my thoughts better? Because I want to become a better speaker.
Okay. You're saying you're somebody who thinks
Well,
ahead.
like, I think faster than I can speak.
Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
see. Okay. We probably need to clarify that then. You're saying that your mind goes really fast, right?
Yes.
And there's so many thoughts in your brain, and then when you go and speak, your mouth can't keep up with your mind.
Yeah.
Okay. It's probably something about you practicing some form of meditation so that you can silence the other thoughts. It's a very powerful tool. I've been reading a lot of books on sales and negotiations, and they seem to keep saying the same thing over and over, Jonah, which is you have to be present. You have to be fully here and not be distracted by what else is going on in your life. And it takes quite a bit of an effort, like a mental effort, to learn this discipline to silence those other thoughts. And in reading the book, Socratic Selling, there's a term that the author uses called full value listening. Full value listening. Some people call it like listening intently, like with great intent and purpose. Full value listening is to communicate to the other person, everything you say matters to me. So here's something that we've learned, which is when I'm speaking to you, I'm transmitting a signal. And depending on your body language, the little micro expressions on your face, the things you say, and the questions that you follow up with me, it tells me a lot that you are hearing me. If you've ever dated and you and your partner aren't communicating, what is happening there? It's a breakdown of transmission to receiving. So they say something and you go about your business like you don't even hear them. Maybe because what they're saying is annoying you and it feels like they're nagging you or talking down to you or disrespecting you. So you just ignore them, you shut down. And men are notorious for this. They can go inside their cave of their mind. And what happens is the other person starts escalating the message in volume, in language, in body language until it starts to sound like they're yelling at you, full throttle. So what they're doing is they're sending a message in the dark. They're sending a message blindly because they're waiting for you to respond. And there's a lot of reasons why men, especially men, I don't want to get sexist here, but especially men shut this thing down, right? Because I don't think you are listening to me. I'm going to say it louder, harsher until you respond. So eventually you're like, enough. You break out, right? Go ahead and do it. Just pull the trigger, Jona. You're like, enough. I don't want to hear from you anymore. Or, okay, I'll commit to doing this thing. I'll go and I'll wash the car later today. That's what happens. So this is telling me you're not listening to me. But if I say something and you're taking notes, that's one of the strongest indicators that you are listening to me. That's why I look around you guys and I'm like, aren't you taking any notes? You hope to remember this? So what's happening in my brain now? I'm distracted from what I want to say to you because I'm thinking you're not listening. Okay? So the problem with the multiple voices inside your head when somebody is speaking is you're hearing only 50% or 30% of whatever is being said. The other 50 is like, I wonder how long this is going to take. I have a hot date tonight. When am I going to tell Ricky about it? Who knows? You just don't know. So this is why you just need to silence those other thoughts and practice being here. When I went to therapy, my therapist had a very simple exercise to demonstrate how hard it is to actually listen to other people. She would say, you talk and your wife will listen for a period of time. And then she'll repeat back to you verbatim exactly what you say. And you realize most people don't even make an attempt to repeat what is being said, but then your ability, the capacity of how long you can listen before you say, that's too much, repeat it back and repeat it back. It's very, very difficult. Okay? Well, all of a sudden everyone wants to cough. Super quiet before. It is getting a little warm in here too.
You turned off the AC.
I did because it was noisy.
Yeah.
Because Jona telepathically told me
Yeah, you did.
turn off the AC, and I responded immediately because I already heard him, so I was walking over there.
You were thinking 5
in my
steps
mind.
ahead.
Yeah, that's right. So Jona and Ricky and Aaron, think about this. You guys probably do need to do some form of meditation to be able to witness your own thinking and be a director of your thoughts and control this. It is a very valuable skill to have for your personal and your professional relationships. We have friends. We know friends, right? We know people who have some form of ADHD, ADD. They're bouncing all over the walls, and they're not that easy to talk to because they're bouncing from subject to subject to subject. Now, let's pretend you only had one voice in your head, and you're still having a hard time articulating your thoughts clearly because your brain is going much faster than your mouth. Here's what I'd like you to do. Before you say anything, practice what TED speakers call the burst technique, is to store up your thoughts, formulate the sentence structure, figure out how you're going to begin. What's the point you want to make? And when you're ready, indicate to the other person, I'm ready. You can do that by raising your hand, like saying, hey, right? That's a simple gesture by just pointing 2 fingers up or something, or that your hand, they know you're ready to speak, and then let it out. Now, I think a lot of people are not used to speaking, especially giving a presentation. So their habits are a little sloppy and they're thinking out loud. Like they haven't really formed their thoughts. That's why we have people who call into the show and are just scrambling and they have a little bit of the diarrhea of the mouth. They say a lot of words, but they're communicating very little. So think about it, structure it, and then let it out. And be comfortable in slowing down your voice, the pace, and the content you want to convey. Be comfortable in the silence. It'll be totally okay. You know, sometimes when you guys ask me a question, I'll first just stare at you for a little bit, and it's like, and it makes you uncomfortable. Like, why is he looking at me? It's because I'm thinking. I'm thinking about what you asked. I'm trying to figure out the intent of what you're saying. And in the meantime, I'm giving my brain the ability to organize the information. You'll also notice sometimes I'll say, before I even start talking, well, there are 3 things that you can do. In my mind, I've already organized what are these things, what are the 3 things, and then I've put them in some kind of logical order. And the only way you can do that is if you've prepared in your mind first. Okay? You have any kind of follow-up to that?
I think for me, it's more of it's a bottleneck where I have a bunch of thoughts, but a little bit comes out. Do you have any advice for that?
Explain to me what's happening inside your mind. What is causing the bottleneck?
Like there's a bunch of thoughts that I want to say, and they all want to come out at the same time.
So how do you organize them in a way that makes sense?
Can you clearly see those bunch of thoughts, or they just feel like a jumbled mess coming at you?
It feels like a jumbled mess.
Okay. So this is where practicing some meditation or mindfulness stuff, where it'll allow you to witness your own thinking. Like, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about that, but what's most relevant to me right now? Be the director of your own thoughts.
Is there like maybe an exercise you could do, like to meditate and write down all your thoughts and then organize it? Eventually you can do that on the fly in seconds, but maybe at first. I mean, do you have any tips on?
That's a very good question, Aaron. I'm not sure because I've not had that problem myself, so I haven't had to develop a solution for it. I bet you if you searched online how to organize your thoughts or speak more clearly when your mind is racing, something like that, I'm sure some really good stuff will pop up.
Because I was thinking, well, I learned a lot from you about that, just how to, like when you give feedback, for example, maybe if we
Yes.
can just bottle it into that.
Okay, we
Giving
can.
feedback.
Yeah.
Give him feedback, sure.
Because there's a lot you want to communicate to the person, but there's a lot of factors that you're considering when you're deciding how to say it, what to say, what order. Maybe you could shed some light on what goes through your mind when you're about to give somebody feedback.
Great. That's a great example, actually. A great scenario and a great way for us to ground the conversation, to move it away from the abstract to the more tangible. When it comes to looking at work, it takes a lot of experience and some coaching or having a really good mentor for you to observe before you're able to do it. Ideally, what you do is you start off with the most important thing. So in my mind, I guess I've already organized the 5 things I have to talk about, and I just go through the order. If you think about cooking, you can't make anything unless you have a recipe. So the first thing is to have the recipe, and the recipe tells you what ingredients you need. So you wouldn't turn on the skillet until you got those the ingredients. So you would go to the supermarket and buy your ingredients. You still wouldn't turn on the skillet until you've done all the prep work. So those are the steps, and it's very clear when it comes to cooking. So when it comes to critiquing stuff, I think it's very similar if you've been trained on how to do it, or if you've done it long enough that you figured it out on your own. So for me, I'm always looking at what is the one big thing that's holding this thing back from being great. Generally, it's the communication or the idea. And this annoys a lot of people. I've been teaching for 15 years, longer if we count the internet teaching. So when I go in and I look at a piece of work, I think the other person wants me to tell them, change this color and move this and make that a little bit bigger, or try this rendering style, and that's going to make it better. And it will make it better, but in my mind, it'll only make it 10% better. It'll only make it incrementally better. It's a house that's built on a poor foundation, and I know it's going to fall apart. I don't have the desire and the ability to just focus on the small stuff. The small stuff is the fifth thing I will say. But it can be frustrating for the person hearing the feedback, because now the thing I'm saying is destroying the foundation. And what they want to do is make progress towards finishing something versus saying, maybe conceptually this is built on a really poor foundation. There is no idea here. And I empathize with them, because when I started out my career, when it came to motion main title design, I didn't know what an idea was. So when my creative director, my client said, oh, there's no idea here. I'm like, yeah, there is. The type is great, isn't it? He's like, Chris, that's not an idea. And he wouldn't give me any more feedback, so I had to go figure it out myself. And over time, you learn those things. So I start with the big stuff, and I start to whittle it down. I'll give you an example, and we've done this before. When we're looking at a storyboard sequence, the first thing I'm looking for is each frame clear? It would make sense that you would start there, because if you have a storyboard sequence of 8 or 10 frames, if I can't understand the frame, then what's the point? Might as well put an X over it. So the first thing I'm looking for is, can I read your frame? Is it drawn in such a way? Is it art directed in such a way that my eye knows where to go and I can see what's going on? I'll give you an example where it breaks down. Let's say there is a very important detail to a shot. Let's say we're doing a whodunit mystery murder thing, and there's lipstick on the glass, and the person uses one shade of lipstick versus another. So the shot that's set up by somebody who doesn't know what they're doing will be a wide shot. There'll be lots of things in the frame, and the lighting won't direct you towards what to look at. So when I look at it, I'm like, what am I looking at? I don't know. Then they'll say, oh, it's because the lipstick is on the glass. And I will tell them, why didn't you put the camera really close, or light it, or art direct the scene in such a way that if you want me to see that, that's where it should be? So I start off with, is it clear? So the first thing I do with my students is to say, is it clear or unclear? Look at each frame with very objective eyes as to what the heck I'm seeing. Next, is it interesting? So it's clear. I get it. All your frames are clear, but it's boring as hell. So now I need to know, is it clear? Is it dramatic and interesting, or is it boring? So if I can fix how it reads as a frame, then I can look at it and say, okay, it's clear. How do we make it more interesting? Well, let's put a wider angle lens on it. Let's hero up in the shot. Let's rake some light across it. And now it's really interesting to look at. Or let's show it from an interesting angle. Why don't we put the camera inside the oven or the refrigerator or the mailbox? So instead of seeing it from this objective line, when we see it from the human level, we see it from inside the box. So when the person reaches for the door and pulls it open, the light is opened on the frame, and now we see it from inside the oven, the refrigerator, or the mailbox. That's how we make a boring shot more interesting. So I'm going through a series of layers. What's the most important, second most important, primary, secondary, tertiary, etc. I would say whatever it else is, but I'm lost after tertiary. Okay? That requires you to know what to look for. That requires you to know what you're looking for in your mind. I did not do this before. While at Art Center, I had Dr. Holtzman, who's a faculty advisor, to teach how to teach better. So he sat in my class and he said, Chris, what are the 5 decisions you're making when you're looking at work? And luckily, I was able to say, it's this, and that. He looked at it and he's like, yeah, I think people can work with that. Why don't you print that out and put it on the wall above everybody's work so they can go through a similar sequence and ask themselves the same question? So when I'm looking at work, depending on what we're looking at, whether it's a cut that you guys show me or a concept or a storyboard, I'm going through something similar, and I have a different set of priorities depending on what we're looking at. A logo would be very different. A packaging design would be very different. Now, Ricky knows this because every challenge we have for the young guns, we tell them, these are the criteria in which I'll be looking for. Shelf presence, appropriateness, uniqueness, creativity, whether it's consistent with the brand, whether it's consistent with each other, so that the designers know what it is I'm looking for. I think a lot of creative people suffer from this because they start out with unclear goals and unclear specifications or expectations to the work. So they just mold something like it's clay, and it's just, they're mashing and mashing, and they have no idea if they're making progress, if anything that they're doing is good. They don't have an objective criteria set, or they're not committed to it. That's the problem. Because in the mind, everything's super mushy until you put it down in cold black and white letters on a page. Now I know what the criteria is.
What do you think allows you to not have that
Wait,
problem?
I think you need to speak into the mic.
What do you think allows you to not have that problem where, like, what you just described, the massive clay? For you, it's very clear. You come into it with a goal,
Yes?
and you don't get distracted by all these other things. It could be that. Oh, I can make it this.
Right. Are you done with the question?
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
Just cut myself off where I keep rambling on.
Okay, you're now practicing that. I'm laughing not at you. It's like I'm just waiting. And Ricky's laughing at you, but I'm just like cool.
No,
so Aaron's learned how to edit himself, right?
We're
He's like,
trying to learn that.
don't drag it out. Do not drag it out. Hey, Monica, can you do me a favor? Can you prop the door in the back open because it slams and we're live now? Thank you. You know what I'm talking about, right? Okay. How do I do that? I think it's because I know I'm flesh and blood in front of you, but I'm just really an android. I'm a replicant. I don't have those issues, you know? For whatever reason, I don't know, whether it's my nature, the nurturing, or some other thing, but I somehow am not cursed with those multiple thoughts and voices. And I've been doing a lot of introspection since I was a really young person, as far as I can remember, thinking about the things I think about. It's really neat when you don't have three voices in your head arguing and competing for attention. For me, it's like it's silence or there's a thought.
Oh my gosh.
Now, sometimes...
That sounds so nice.
Yeah, that sounds very nice.
Tell me, kind sir, what did that look like? I do get in the rabbit hole for sure, and I chase it sometimes. And I'll give you a clear example. Sometimes I'm on Pinterest, and on Pinterest, I'm looking for something, and then they show me these other things. They're showing me things, and I'm like, it looks all so good, and you follow down. So I make it a point to remember, what the heck am I looking for? Because you start looking for cool tile patterns for a kitchen, and the next thing you know, you're looking at rustic furniture and hardware. Like, how did I get here? So I keep telling myself, what are we looking for? 2 to 3 steps away, we're getting pretty far away, and they're like, pull it back, pull it back. Or I say to myself, look for anything you want, but you have an hour. So then I don't stress out over like, oh, this is wasted time, but I still like it. Yeah, so let me ask you guys this question, chill boys. How many of you guys have so many thoughts in your head that you just can't even begin to grapple them and then push them out of your mouth? Jona probably, because he asked the question. Aaron, do you have 1,000 voices? What about you, Ricky?
I feel like I don't have as many voices as
I feel like that's true with you because you're like, oh,
yeah, I'm
hey voice.
Yeah.
What's going on?
There's that one guy up there.
Just that one guy, huh? That one guy. Okay.
Got a whole neighborhood up there.
Yeah. I just
There's a whole party.
Yeah.
And he's like the one guy at the party. So Aaron and Jona, describe to me what it feels like inside your brain. Can you do that?
Maybe just give me a second to think
Yeah,
about
of course.
Yeah.
There's no rush. I'll see what the people on YouTube are saying.
It's just
Have you not thought about this before?
no. I think because I don't want to think about it.
Why not?
Because it's loud. It's everything speaking at once.
You don't want to think about the things you think about, and yet you want to get control over the things you think about. So I think, well, why are you guys laughing? What's going on?
Because you said that one time at AIGA,
Go ahead.
and then this lady was like, "What?"
I said the same thing.
Yeah.
Like pretty on
it. A
par.
bit of a tongue twister.
It's a multi-layered sequence of very similar words that, boom.
A bunch of things in that.
Yeah, like market to the marketers that are marketing to you. Answer with a question when you're asked a question that you don't want to give them an answer. It's these things, these mind puzzles, right? It's called genius. That's the name. It's called alliterative genius.
I have one. I feel like
Okay.
for me, the many voices in my head manifest in a lot of different ways. But one way that I think pertains to the conversation we're having is for setting a goal for myself. I have a million different things that I want to do. I want to learn, like get back into piano and play the piano.
Yeah?
I want to become good at shooting photos. You
Yes.
build an Instagram, maybe a big Instagram following.
Yep.
I want to get good at telling stories and writing. I have all these things that I want to do, and it's hard to decide which one I should do. That's one way, the multiple
Okay.
voices.
Yeah.
Or even on an edit.
Yep. I can see that in you.
It's like I'm the clay guy. I'm trying to just mold this clay. Oh, it kind of looks like a cup. Okay, it's a cup. Or maybe, you know what, actually maybe it looks better this way. And it's stressful because I don't have a clear goal on the edit.
Yeah.
I kind of just let it present itself.
That's like life. If you don't have a clear goal on what it is you want, you wind up wasting a lot of energy. Or, I know waste sounds like a strong word, so let me try and rephrase. It will seem like you're putting a lot of effort in, but you're not making a lot of progress. And for a lot of people, not making progress is a way to create unhappiness. Because one of the 4 pillars of happiness is perceived progress. You need to make progress, right? If you're staring at your edit for 4 days and you know you should be done at this point, it's not making you happy. It's definitely not making me happy. So there's 2 people that are unhappy about this. What I would suggest you do, and we probably need the man himself, Jose Caballero.
He's a master of the...
Well, because he's all over the place. So he's developed tools for himself to govern his mind and his thoughts. Something that I saw him do before, which at first I didn't understand, is like, why do you create a list on colored paper what you have to do today? That keeps him accountable. He's developed tools to keep him focused. And what's really cool is if you can keep a person who has too many thoughts focused, a guy like me is like, that works. It works for everybody. The problem is my system only works for robots. Because it's like, just don't think it. Done. Binary. And so I think that's one of the things. Maybe you should sit down and say, when you're given an assignment, what are the 5 most important things that I need to take into consideration for this edit? Well, first, it's due by Tuesday. Great. It needs to have some music, and it needs to be 2 minutes and under. It needs to communicate this idea, and I don't want anything too wacky or whimsical in here. Make sure the color correction is done so the shots are consistent, because there's issues with color and lighting. You're like, fantastic, good. So now you budget your time. You're like, I have 2 days to do this. What has to be done that I know if I get this done first, everything else will be a little bit easier? See, so we prioritize like that. Like, okay, I know based on time and effort and experience, if I just block out the edit, I know it'll be under 2 minutes. I can get an approval on this before I go and do the minutia. The same thing that I'm telling you to do in communication, you're doing managing your project. Start with the most important stuff, right? There's no point to do color correction or sound design when the edit hasn't been approved or locked, or you haven't cracked that puzzle yet. That makes sense. And I know sometimes with you guys, I'm not saying any one person, you'll go and look for music for 3 days. The freaking edit's not even anywhere. And that's a real problem. Because somebody will walk by and say, what are you doing? And it looks like you've done nothing. When in fact you have, and then you feel frustrated. It's like, oh man, freaking boss, I've done all this effort looking for stuff, and I don't understand why I don't get any respect. It's almost like I know you. And that's what you're thinking. And if you look at it from the outside, if you were to employ anybody in your life, if you asked a buddy like, hey man, help me clean out this space and do this. 3 days later, you come back, it's like, it doesn't look like anything has moved. You're like, what up? I'm paying you to do this. Why haven't you helped me? He's like, dude, shut up. I've been helping you this whole time. But he's been thinking about logistics and calling up rental places, or I don't know what they're doing. That's the problem.
You didn't focus on the most important part, which is clean.
They're called dependencies, right? This must happen, then this can happen. And once that has happened, I can move on to the next step. So step 3 is dependent on step 2 happening. Step 2 is dependent on step 1. So when you go to step 5 and you're looking for stuff, you're probably inverting the sequence. And that's just you not having clarity of your own process. Usually, with experience, this comes. I'll give you an example. I remember in the early dark days when you're wearing your Hawaiian shirts and your baggy shorts and your crazy toenails hanging out in those early days, and you're not as fit as you are today. You'd come in there and we'd like look at some layouts of type, and you were terrible. And then I would sit down with you, hey Aaron, if we do this, try this. Think about this. And slowly but surely, you started to solve the enigma called typography. You started getting really good at it, where you'd show me, I'm like, yeah, that's good. And you would lean over to some other Joe Schmo with editing, that doesn't know anything about typewriting. No, it's not gonna work. I don't like that. I'll tell you why. See, so I've been able to share the way I look at it with you, and it's become very clear. I try to share with the way I look at editing with you, but for whatever reason, that's not transferred. Maybe because when it came to typography, maybe your mindset was, I will submit because I know nothing about this. Whereas editing, no, Chris, this is how I work, and you stay in your lane, and I'll stay in my lane. I know better. Multicam, multi-schmam. Keyboard shortcuts, frick those, but I don't want to do that, right? And so that's where it comes. Maybe. I'm making a lot of guesses in the dark here. What do you think?
No, I think you're pretty spot on there. But I
Thank
think
you.
with the editing, I've really been thinking about what you've been saying, and
4 years later.
yeah, it's just hard because you just get wrapped up in it, and I'm so consumed by what I'm doing. I can't take a step back.
Yeah,
and be like,
you've got
what does
lost
Chris
in the
want?
forest through the
Yeah.
trees, kind of. You can't see the trees. You're like, I'm in a forest. Yeah, so why don't you do this? Why don't you do this right now? Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's the first thing I have to do when it comes to an edit? And then what's the last thing? Force yourself to think in blocks of 5. Just swing the mic out of your way so it's not, there. What are the 5 things you must do from the most important to the least important in terms of sequence? They're all very important, and they can all seem like ones, but they're really not, okay? And work off that. That will actually help you when you're talking to a client, and your client could be a marketing manager here or me or somebody else. It doesn't really matter. You can get really good at that. The same thing goes with, like, say, washing your car. You do certain things in a certain sequence, right? You don't put soap on until you have at least rinsed off the car. It makes sense. Get the big chunks of dirt off because you don't want to rub that into your car. It's going to scratch the paint. So you know intuitively, I think, logically what has to happen. And people who are very good professionals who do what they do, it's very clear to them, step 1, step 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's how they go into projects, hit every deadline, deliver consistently, and don't stress out, will I ever get there? They know, I will get there because I've always gotten there using this formula.
That's good, Jonah. What did you think of that?
Do you guys need more help with editing?
Editing? How do you approach like feedback on editing? Is it?
What do you mean? Oh, like if I'm looking at a piece of work?
Yeah.
Okay, this one's hard. This one's really hard because if you think of looking at a logo or a poster layout, there's only so many things you can look at and talk about. But an edit is a poster in motion over time, and it brings in all these kinds of complexities like sequence, ordering, pacing, timing, payoff, messaging, continuity, so many things. So generally, when I'm looking at it, I'm playing back the sequence several times. I refrain from saying something until I've watched it at least 2 or 3 times in my mind at least. Then I can say, okay, I'm asking myself overall, is this working or isn't this working? Well, what is working? What does that mean? Is it communicating the message that's really important? All else should be subservient to the message. Period. What is this piece supposed to be saying? And did we have clarity of that before we started? If we don't, that's usually where it breaks down. Then I look at individual story beats. Are those beats working? So the parts make up the whole. So first I'm like saying, is the whole working and where is it not working? It could be the way it's set up in the beginning. It could be the music that's totally throwing everything off, or right in the middle of the sequence, something weird happens and I look at it, I'm like, what? It totally broke the continuity. So I'm looking for the big things, like what is making this not work? Because if it works, I say fantastic. I go straight to steps 4 and 5, which is details. Is the color correction good? Is the music and sound mixed well? Are we doing that kind of stuff? And the last thing I would probably say is number 6 would be, is there anything else that we can do to plus this? If not, we move on. We're done. Deliver it, ship it. Okay? Sometimes when the sequence arrives to me, I'm like, whoa, so good. Is there anything else that we can do to make it even better? If not, we leave it alone. I generally don't zoom into like the pixels are a little bit off or your typeset is 2 pixels to the right. That matters in some sense, but not in the big scheme of things. Is this achieving the communication directive? If it is, that's a good place. If it's not, where does it break? And why is it breaking? So if you look at a couple of shots, usually a sequence of 3 shots, what do those 3 things add up to? So if we see somebody climbing up a mountain and somebody slipping and then somebody falling into the chasm, that seems like a good 3-shot sequence. But if you show somebody falling in a chasm, somebody slipping, and then somebody climbing up in reverse sequence, that makes no sense. So it's sometimes order, sometimes length of shot, or continuity going from one tight shot to a wide shot. Do they line up or not?
So you said like the 5 parts. Is the video working
Yeah.
first, and then second, is the message coming across?
No, is the video working is not the real thing. That's the big thing I'm looking for. Like the first question I'm asking is, are we communicating what we're supposed to be saying? That's the whole purpose of video, isn't it? Now, if you're creating like a tone poem or one of these fever dream sequences, then it doesn't really matter. It's just about the beauty of the images or color correction or something else. But most of the times when it comes to video, it's about communicating a message. If you do a wedding video, what's the point of the video? What is it? I think it's to create anticipation for this culmination of the ceremony and telling the story of 2 people's lives, separate but equal, and then coming together and finding that wonderful union of 2 things coming together. What I would often describe in my storyboarding class as train A heads from San Francisco to New York, train B heads from New York to San Francisco. And we cross-cut between these 2 moments, back and forth, until these 2 trains collide somewhere in the middle of the country. And that's where the drama comes. If you think about it, most stories are set up like this, where there's a killer and there's a victim. We don't know who the killer and the victim is, and we're cross-cutting the stories until those 2 meet, and then their stories merge together, and we see like who will emerge victorious. Will the heroine kill or stop the murderer, the serial murderer or whatever, serial killer, or will the serial killer outwit and outsmart the heroine in the story, right? Think about Silence of the Lambs. Think about, what is that? Is it Lecter or Hannibal or one of those stories? Manhunter? They have separate storylines and they're like trying to find their way. We know they're going to meet. The audience wants them to meet, whether it's a love story or a horror film or a science fiction thing. They will meet at some point, and how the director and the writer craft the story, they come together and then they cross and then they become one for a little bit until one is able to overcome the other, overpower the other. Right? Think about Silence of the Lambs. Clarice has a whole story at the academy. She's running. She's doing all these things. And then eventually she meets Bill. I forget his name.
Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo Bill, right? And Buffalo Bill is this kind of handicapped guy. Spoiler alert, guys. Handicapped guy who's like using that as a perceived weakness so he can lure women close to his van, and they help him moving his couch. And as soon as they get close enough, he grabs them, throws them in the van, and abducts them. So that's what's happening. And we know they're going to meet up into this super climatic point where she figures out where Buffalo Bill is going to be. She radios it into FBI, and they're going there, and she's going to check out one last lead. So there's a whole team of FBI converging on Buffalo Bill's house, and she's innocently walking up on a little lead, and she rings the doorbell. And when she rings the doorbell, the FBI agents also ring the doorbell. And so Buffalo Bill, the alarm goes off in the basement. He's like, oh. So he puts on his stuff. He walks towards the door. And we have all these FBI guys ready to just charge him. And he opens the door. And we see who other than Clarice. Oh, what a great sequence. So all that was building up to that one moment. And as the editor, as the director, if you introduce weird story elements, or she goes to the beach for some reason, and vacations in Tahiti or whatever, I don't know. What does that have to do with the story? So the architects of the story, they know exactly what is important. So within that, they can improvise. Anything goes out, they don't do that. That's the thing. You guys are like, where's the story? We don't know. So we just keep shaping that clay. And we're done when the deadline hits us, and we're like, what is that? I don't know what it is.
Can I ask a question? Did you have something?
No, I was just going to say, homework, watch Silence of the Lambs.
Dude, great movie.
Everyone's seen that.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Well, study it. They're seeing it and they're studying it.
Yeah.
Could you give a lecture on it? It's the question. Then you haven't studied it. You don't know it. You can see a dumb movie and still break it down and say, this is the good part of the film. This is where they messed up. Here's why they messed up. Here's what we can learn from it. So the first thing is, are we communicating the message? And then we need to fix that. And the message is usually broken down in some area. Timing, casting, delivery of the message in terms of the words that are spoken. We can probably see that the sequence maybe need to be rearranged. Some shots need to live longer, while other shots probably need to just be thrown out because they're not on that wavelength of communicating the idea, right? I'm not thinking about this straight off my head here, so I'm not probably doing a great job. If I sat down for a few minutes, I think I could map it out for you. But I would like to ask you, since you guys are the ones editing all the time, what are the 5 things that you must do in order to get this thing right, get it done? If you're not clear, chances are you're wasting a lot of time.
Was that a rhetorical question?
No, it's just homework for you to think about. Yeah. Like Aaron, when you go to do a kickflip, you know there's a sequence of things happening. You don't just kick. You got to get some speed first. And then you got to position your body, get a line of sight, and then your feet have to be in the kind of the right spot. And you snap the tail back, and then you flick the foot, and then you put them back together, and hopefully you land, not on your face, but on the board. And it goes something like that, right? You have to think about this before you do it. Otherwise, you go up in there, and the board goes across the way, and you land on your ankle again every single time. Same thing about hitting a baseball. You're thinking about certain things, you know? You're what is that calling? Waggling the bat, or you're
That's just your timing, yeah.
timing. You're getting that ready. You're getting your hips
Rhythm.
in position, and you're probably thinking about, is he going to throw me the fastball? Is he going to throw me a curveball? He's going to be in my zone. It's a gamble because you can't decide that fast. You're probably reading something subconsciously, like his body language. If he's doing a certain thing, it might give you a little signal that I think he's going outside or whatever,
Yeah.
right?
Count and
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah, who's on base? What's going on? Can he afford to walk me or
Mhm.
not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a gamble.
When you talk to someone, does any of this apply to that? Like when you're about to speak to someone, how do you know what order to say the things you're thinking about in, or how do you know what to say to that person?
When I'm talking to somebody, oftentimes I'm just listening to them. So this is where I put my own brain on pause and just listen. First and foremost, I think my number one priority is just try to understand the intent of what they're saying, knowing very, very well that most people aren't great at communicating their thoughts, so I have to read between the lines. So what we can do is do this thing called playback. And it's also in the book Socratic Selling. We play back what we heard to the person, which is a summary of things that are important. A tip that Chris Voss gives in his book, Never Split the Difference, is he says, repeat back 3 of the last words that they use in that sentence, or repeat back 1 word, the most important word of what they just said. That'll communicate to the other person, you are kind of listening to me. Now, I don't want to use the exact same words because that's the function of a machine. I need to understand. So when you play back, you send a signal to the other person, you understand me. And if you can play back it so well, they might even come to the conclusion that you understand me better than I understand myself, right? Like that's what I meant to say. And if you can do that, you build extreme rapport. So if you guys are single, I'm not saying you are, but if you guys are single and you're able to do this with somebody that you're attracted to, they will see you as a very attractive person. Because all we want in life is to be loved. And love is an abstract emotion. Really what we need to have is to be understood and appreciated. That's all we want in life. Understand me and appreciate me. If you can do that, that special someone that's sitting across from you will really feel connected to you. So the easy part is to understand. Listen to what they're saying and read between the lines. What is it that person's saying? Now, this becomes quite difficult for all of us, and I'll tell you why. It's because we are mostly governed by our limbic, our emotional brain. And the emotional brain makes all the decisions about what we're going to do, whether we buy something or whether we fall in lust with that person or not. It's driving all our decisions, but it doesn't have language. It's what a lot of people call their gut feeling. It's not until the limbic brain transmits a signal to the neocortex, the front part of your brain, that it starts to form words. And many people can't translate their limbic into their neocortex. So words come out, and you might say something like if you're really attracted to a girl and you say something like, "Oh, that was stupid of you to say." You're like, "Why did I say that? That's not what I meant. I meant you're the most amazing, beautiful human being, but I just said something stupid." And we catch ourselves all the time because something went up. The signals got mixed up in our brain because there's 14 other voices in there, like impress her, don't say this, they only want that. And it comes out all weird. We just need practice. Now, if the other person hears you say, like, "Your hair is weird," and they really understand you, they're like, "Oh, I know what he means. He likes me. He's just frustrated because he doesn't know how to say that." And I'll say, like, "You say the cutest things." And you're like, "Oh my God, you totally understand what I meant to say." Right? Now, we can't control what the other person, how they react, but we can control how we react. So when they send that signal, be a good receiver of that transmission. Let them know through playback, "I understand you." The reason why I say you are not a machine, because a machine hears everything. A machine plays back everything. A machine understands nothing. Don't be a machine coming from a machine.
Do you have anything, Richard?
I do not.
Jonah, I think this is a nice segue into your question 2.
Question 2.
Give us a moment.
Okay, let me do this. I need to get some water. I don't think my son got me any water, did he?
No, he's slacking.
Not thinking ahead. Whew. Oh, Lord.
What was your question 2, Jonah? Are you saving it?
As someone who's overseeing people, how do I detach myself from feeling guilty by making more work for my peers? Because, that's going to be workshop.
We start off strong, and then we...
Wait, you want to do Rick's?
I don't know that I like mine.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay.
Oh, Lord.
It's good. Yeah, we usually don't get questions.
I thought this was when we ask you.
I have a question for you. When was the last time that you sat around with a buddy or somebody that you were really interested in and felt like you're losing yourself in thought in a very positive way, where we totally get each other and we can talk forever, and like we understand each other like we've known each other for 100 years? When was the last time you felt that about somebody else or they felt that about you? Back to you.
Well, I feel like that's with us. I feel like that with them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so special.
Yeah.
That'll suck when one of you guys are gone. I'm just messing
That's why I
around.
don't want to leave.
Yikes. No. Yeah, I feel like we have a really good bond with one another.
And why is that? What makes you feel that way?
I think humor, for sure.
I think we all relate to one another. I think we see traits of ourselves in the other person.
Yeah.
And I think we like that.
So when you see something familiar, when you feel like the other person believes what you believe, understands what you understand, you have that connection.
Mm-hmm.
See how a powerful understanding is?
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's something called mirroring. Are you familiar with mirroring?
Yeah, I think so.
What do you know about it?
I think it's just like copying what you see somebody else do so that you can become friends. The Andy Bernard, if you will. Like if you speak in a way and I want to become friends with you, I would speak in that same way.
Yeah. So how can you speak in that same way? What are the things that you can do?
To who? To who?
To the other person across from you.
Oh, repeating the last word that they use or the most important word.
So
like
that's
that.
called using the same vocabulary.
Yeah.
The language is important.
Slang.
What else?
Slang, body language.
Okay, one thing at a time. Just let's talk about speaking though.
Okay.
So we said if you use the same words they use, that's one. How else can you mirror that person?
In a speaking way?
It's just with your voice.
Cadence?
Cadence? What else? Good.
We match their energy. I don't know if this is
Speed? Volume?
Mm-hmm. Inflection?
Inflection?
Vocabulary?
Yes, those are the words.
Yeah.
Yes, vocabulary.
What about topics of conversation, like what you're actually saying? Is that part of it?
Well, without getting into the specifics, these are generic things that you can do to mirror the other person, right? So you see how Aaron's like nodding? If I start nodding, he's like, dude, Chris gets me. And he understands. And if I were sitting back like you guys, you're like, oh, but I'm not. I'm resisting that because you guys are all leaning back. I'm leaning forward. Leaning forward shows interest too, by the way. Like I'm literally leaning in is what people refer to as, right? If the three of you guys are sitting all spread leg, but if I start folding my leg like this, if I start crossing my legs and I start going like this,
You're sending a
there
signal.
will be little signals going to you.
Yeah.
Eventually somebody will cross their leg. And you'll notice too, nobody wants to scratch their face or anything, but I do this and you can't help but then get all itchy in your face. Like my face all of a sudden itches and you'll be fighting. You're like, what the hell? And it's just us signaling to each other because this is a social thing, right? We're social creatures as human beings. Even if you're antisocial, you still are social. And it's how we've learned to survive and build civilizations. Because we need to feel comfortable with people, like we feel at home, at ease. And how do we do that is when we start to mirror and copy rhythms and things like that. So all these little nervous tics, body positioning, voice, tone, vocabulary, cadence, flow, energy level, that impacts you, and we start to come to an agreement with each other. So if you're a stranger, if I want you to feel like I'm building rapport with you and that we're in sync, I'm going to start to mirror and adopt your language and your vocabulary ever so subtly, and you'll start to feel like we're the same. I don't know if you know this, but literally, women sync up in their periods. And I think the oldest woman sets the tone for everybody.
Oh, really?
I think it works something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong on YouTube, but I believe that there's some secret signal that's going across that if you spend enough time together, all the periods sync up. And that's really powerful. That's like a physiological thing that's changing. Can you imagine that?
I cannot.
That's wild, right? So for men, we need to learn that, and women do it naturally. That's why I think women have much greater, stronger social skills than we do for a lot of different reasons, I think.
Typically speaking, they're much better communicators.
Better communicators. Here's another thing that I learned. I don't know if this is 100% true or not, but women speak to think. That means they're thinking out loud. That's why the conversation between a dad and a son will be like an hour-long bit of silence and then 2 words. Whereas a mother and a daughter can sit there and talk about whatever, and they're just speaking to think. My wife does this all the time. And I learned this through going to relationship workshops, so I've learned a lot of different things. So this is what I've learned. So when a woman is speaking to you, sometimes she's not really looking for you to respond. She's thinking out loud.
Yes.
And when you try to give her advice or you say something to interrupt that, what's her first response? Why aren't you listening to me?
Yeah.
So you need to demonstrate that. So you'll notice too, if you watch 4 or 5 women sit around at Starbucks and talk, everybody's talking. And nobody's bothered by each other and talking. It's because they're just thinking out loud. Just thinking out loud, and that's how they connect and bond. So yeah, I think women are much better at communicating their feelings because they've had a lot of practice speaking their mind. Whereas dudes, we go into our cave, we have the box, we take a piece of information, we put it in the box, and we put it in the back of our mind. We compartmentalize all our things. We do it so well that we forget that there's a box back there. We don't even know what it means anymore. So if you guys want to build rapport with somebody has a date today, tomorrow, whenever, just really connect with them. What is their body language doing? And study that and just sort of sync up with them, and they feel really familiar and it's safe, and for some reason I feel like we connect. Now I just got back from Poland and I did a workshop, right? And a lot of the ways that people were used to speaking is not conducive to negotiation. They come at a certain volume, at a certain pace, and a certain tone. As a culture, what I learned when I got back from or doing the workshop was that people are not used to expressing how they feel to people they just met. But when you're trying to do a business deal, not understanding the feelings, not communicating your feelings, can get in the way of doing a deal. So when I watched them do role play and negotiate with each other, it felt like the whole time one person was talking, the other person was talking, but nobody was listening. Nobody was understanding. Nobody was responding. So I come in as the crazy American Asian guy, and they're like, oh, why would I buy from you? And then check this out. So why would I buy from you? What does that voice sound like to you?
Kind of hostile.
A little hostile.
There's like a point on
Like
it.
accusation, there's a
Yeah,
little point,
accusation.
the tone is going up, the speed and the volume is a certain thing. Here's what I do. I don't know. Why would you hire me?
And then there's like
All of a sudden, their energy starts to change, right? So here's what I've learned from reading Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference. Number one, what he calls put on your late night FM DJ voice, which you have. Just call it your radio voice, right? For short, your radio voice, which is, hey, you're listening to KCPD, you know,
smooth jazz.
Yeah, smooth jazz. It's good to have you tonight. It's a Tuesday afternoon. I hope you're enjoying your day. That voice.
Mhm.
It's low, deliberate. It calms you down,
It's clear.
right?
Yeah.
So think about that. So speed is not your friend. So first, master your voice. So we should all practice, and you guys don't have this problem because you're pretty low energy to begin with. So you're going to put people at ease. That's why people don't get alarmed when you guys speak. So you slow it down. What was the second thing I wanted to tell you about? Oh, asking open-ended questions. So the tone of your voice, asking open-ended questions, helps the other person to get clarity of their own thought. Now, not all open-ended questions are created equally, so you have to start to master the kinds of questions you want to ask. He says that questions that start with how or what are pretty good. Who and when almost always drive you towards a very specific answer that isn't great for building dialogue because you want the other person to talk. The last one is, if you're paying attention, is why. He says use why very carefully because if it's not delivered carefully, it can sound as being defensive or accusing the other person of something, right? That's why I've tried to master the calm, the level-headed, the detached voice. It works. Conversely, check this out. The person who organized the event, who produced it from Synapse, his name is Schuster, and he, while role-playing, was trying to be mad. So he was slamming the table and just throwing a lot of hostile energy towards his partner, and she didn't know what to do. It was like a deer in the headlights, right? Mm-hmm. And so Schuster was sitting in front of me, and I said, oh, let's try something. I've never done this before because I've never seen anybody slam the table like the way you do. It's startling to everybody else in the room because they would be talking and it's like, boom. They would be talking and boom. And everybody was like, what is going on with that role play? Okay. So I said, are you ready? You're going to be really mad at me or something? He's like, yeah, I'm ready. So he slams the table like, boom. Chris, I need to talk to you. I'm like, boom. Woo, what's going on? And he stopped. He didn't know how to react. I matched and mirrored his energy, but I redirected from super negative to super positive.
Right.
And if you think about it, anger and excitement, they're almost the same.
Right.
Right? Because we're speaking really fast. We're very excited.
Passionate.
But depending on your tone and what you say, it can be interpreted as I'm very passionate, excited, or I'm really angry. So I quickly matched and mirrored him and flipped him over. And he's like, we need to do that again. I'm like, the magic's gone. I already broke you. I just broke your rhythm just simply by matching and mirroring. And he laughed.
Yeah.
No, that's a good reaction. Mm-hmm. Like, why am I so cranked up right now? I have no idea. Mm-hmm. What's your question? I walked away to give you time to come up with your next question.
Jonah.
Oh.
It is not really a Q&A. It's just like us
yeah.
talking about stuff. Like, what's topic is hot on your mind?
So Jonah's been given some more responsibilities here at work as far as reviewing content.
Okay.
I think that's the.
Why doesn't Jona ask the question?
That's just the context.
The one thing we should never say first. How do I detach myself from feeling guilty by making my peers work more? By giving feedback. By being in charge of feedback.
Why do you feel guilty for giving them feedback?
Because then they have to do more work.
What's the point of feedback?
To accomplish the goal of the video.
Well, to get clarity.
Yeah.
So when people seek me out for feedback, I don't think of it like, let me give you more work. They're stuck. They need help. They need guidance. They need to see what you see. They want a creative partner to sound ideas off of and provide clear and articulate feedback. Why would you feel guilty?
Because I think, well, I messed up. Like, I'm going to give an example, like with Aaron. So now, like, Matthew's told me to, like, review his videos before
Yep.
they go up. So I tell him to, like, to put music in them. And then I look back at the older videos, and they don't have music. I'm like, oh, damn. Like, I just told him to put music in. Now he has to take it out. And so, like, at the time, like, he was like, oh, man, I just put music. And now I'm, like, feeling guilty. Like, fuck, dude, I'm sorry. Like,
Well, first of all, you're pretty new in your career. If you expect yourself to be able to give feedback and not make a couple of wrong steps, you have expectations on yourself that may not be realistic. Can we accept that?
yeah.
I don't know if that's the way to do it. One thing that I said is after we finished the 1 through 5, we got the most important to like the detail stuff. And if it's perfect, then we sit around and say, how can we make this better in service of the communication? See, people will add stuff to add stuff, not because it's in service of the communication. If we get clear on what it is we're trying to say, then all the other decisions become really clear. This doesn't fit. We're making a holiday spot. Why are we throwing this other random thing in? Well, it doesn't make sense. That's like you guys sculpting that block of clay together and just molding. It's like, what are we making? I don't know. Let's make a cup, like Aaron said, or let's make an elephant. Those two things, those two things don't belong together, but somehow you push them together because you're not clear on what it is you're trying to do. If adding music in enhances the message, then do it. But if continuity is more important than enhancing the message, then don't do it. But generally speaking, I don't really care that much about continuity because each video needs to stand alone. And that's what I try to do is like, what can we do to make this better? Now, adding something because you can't figure out what else to say is not a good idea. Like if Aaron shows you something, it's perfect. You just say, man, freaking good job. Way to hit that out of the ballpark. And I got nothing else to add. Do you think there's anything else you want to try? No, nothing. Okay, cool. So you may feel pressured. I'm trying to make this better. I don't know what else to say, so I'll throw something random at him. Then you should feel guilty because you just gave him extra work for no good reason, right? And I see that happening all the time, not with you, but just in general with people who don't really know what they're doing. Add things. Clients add things because it makes them feel like they're in control and they have power. So you know that little thing, that button, it's not as red as I want it to be. Make it redder. In the scheme of things, will making it redder move the needle at all? 0.001% of the population will notice. So now we're just giving people extra work. But say with Jaden, who gave me his edit, I noticed like one glitch with audio. I noticed some of the subtitles was not saying what it is I was saying, not because what I say is so important, but it changes the meaning of the sentence by choosing the wrong word. So I'm going to make that note. But there may be little things like something in the background that isn't perfect, but it doesn't really change the message at all. In that case, I don't care at all. Like if the typeface is not the same one we always use, if it's really bothering me, I'll say it, but otherwise it doesn't matter. Sometimes it needs a comma or a period. It doesn't change the message too much. I don't care. Now, if we're making a feature-length film that gets put out into the world, like this is the thing that is the culmination of all our energy and effort, I will put on a different set of goggles. However, these are videos to be shared with people so they can learn and grow. So the longer we take to produce it and put it out, if it doesn't impact the delivery of the message, it's actually hurting people. That's how I see it. but I'm using a different set of criteria than maybe some other people here. So each person weighs things differently.
Yeah. Because now I'm trying to view it as Matthew's eyes. Yeah. So I'm trying to
That's fine.
think of it in
Right.
his lens. Yeah. Yeah. That was,
What else you got?
I mean,
Did I answer your question?
yeah.
Okay. Don't
So
feel
what-
guilty for trying to help somebody make their thing better.
What are you going to do, Jonah, differently now? So, like, if you give me notes on my edit, and you're going to be like, dang, I just gave Ricky 4 more hours worth of work to do.
Well, in that sense.
Do the work.
Yeah.
But that's not me. Yeah, like, but is he going to be okay with it? Like, that he's just
Yeah,
giving me-
if it's to make it better
Right. I just
in
want
in measurable ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like before that, I'm going to look at it through the lens of, does it impact or change the message in a dramatic way or like in a negative way?
In a positive way.
Yeah.
Does it improve the delivery of the message? If it doesn't, don't worry about it. Move
Mhm.
on. Don't say something for the sake of trying to flex your power. That's all.
What do you guys think? We're at an hour. Answered 2 questions. Should we keep going?
Should we look at comments?
Should we?
I'll look at
I
some
got
comments.
the comments here. But yeah, I think should.
I don't know.
What do you guys
Whatever
feel?
you guys
I
want.
feel like, Ricky, you got one more thing. What was on your mind? Is that
And
right?
he's afraid to say.
Yep.
Big finish.
Oh, this is a good one to finish on.
I'll say hello to some people who are on right now. Tom Larak, Bob. What's going on? I want to say your last name, Bob, but I don't freaking know how to pronounce it. He's part of the pro group. Someone who's very vocal and active in our community. What's going on? I think John Beatty was in here earlier. I saw him. Garcia.
Was that the question?
Cayenne. These guys are doing some secret smoke messages over there. Why don't you guys just freaking read it? What up, Alec Miller? Alexis. Oh, John, there you are. Angel Velasquez. He's always on our live streams.
Dude, always.
This guy is one consistent dude.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I am really dark in this right now. You guys see how dark I am?
Yeah, we could bump up the
We probably
ISO.
need to work on this a little bit, but it's okay. Leave it alone, guys. Don't worry about it.
Is it going to impact the message?
I like the first part, but then this part to me gets like you're not saying what you really mean.
Bob
Word.
Bon Eal.
Okay.
Bob Bon Eal. Thanks,
First
Bob.
one's good, though.
Appreciate it. This is what we call in radio dead air. So while the 3 of you guys debate how to ask a question. You guys ready, or should I say something?
It's a good question. It's just not formed
well,
correctly.
who cares? Say it.
We'll get it out.
Don't worry.
It's gonna be one of those.
I'll figure it out.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So go ahead and ask it, just the way you got it written there, Rick, because it's good. I feel like we can all relate to
Just
it.
come on. You guys had weeks and months to prepare, so let's go.
All right. I'm insecure here at work. How do I deal with being given responsibilities that I feel aren't getting us closer to our overall goal of the company?
Okay, there's many things in this question. Here's the thing I want you guys to practice. Practice the speaking metaphor and just ask one question at a time versus like compounding and commas. That's probably the 14 voices that are inside your head fighting for attention, right? So this is an episode of Split happening, etc. So let's just focus on one thing at a time. How do I get over being insecure at work? Period. Or question mark. Why do you feel insecure at work?
Well, in context to the question,
Let me ask you a different question. This will be
Okay.
an easier question to answer. What's happening at work that makes you feel insecure?
I'm being given responsibilities that I feel like Jonah and I are each given more responsibilities, right? As we work here longer. Jonah's being given what I value is like progressing, like the overall goal of the company, like that's going to move the needle, what Jonah's doing. I'm not 100% sure in my head. I'm like, okay, is what I'm doing progressing going to move the company forward? Are the
Okay.
things...
Let's pause.
Oh, man.
Let's pause. So you've answered the question. What's wrong?
No.
Jonah's going to
Tough
take
to
over.
talk
Yeah.
about something that's so personal. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, that's the whole point of what we're doing. If you don't talk about real,
I wasn't really sure.
Right? That's what we're here for.
Right.
Yeah.
If you hold back, this is not after hours. This is like after I lie about after hours, right?
Yeah.
And it's making you uncomfortable. Why?
I just don't want it to sound,
Like you're complaining because I'm going to fire you? Or what?
or
What's
just
going
that
on?
I don't know. Yeah, that, and like that I'm ungrateful for what I've been given or something like that. I just want to know what I'm doing is impactful and helping the company move forward. And I know.
Okay, pause. So for whatever reason, you're seeing whatever Jona is doing is moving the company forward.
That's how I view
But
it.
you're not seeing what you're doing is moving the company forward.
At the same scale.
Okay. Why are you comparing what he's doing to what you're doing?
Because we're relatively at the same point of our lives and careers. Like I feel like we're very similar, and I don't want to get past and like, bye, Rick.
Okay. So the person who gave you things to do, sometimes it's me, sometimes it's Matthew or whoever else, you're not seeing those as important to the company's goals.
No, I am.
But you said they're not.
I'm not viewing it as important.
Well, it's all relative, is it not?
Right, 'cause
Everybody here does
incre-
something to move the company forward.
Right.
Okay. Monica's been here over 10 years.
Right.
She's now ordering supplies for the kitchen to make sure you guys are all okay. Somebody else used to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So if she's like, this is not really moving the company forward, I'm not going to do this, guess what happens?
Mm-hmm.
The system falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's good to feel like I'm making progress on my own individual goals, but then we've just become a company of soloists.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's playing a different instrument at a different track, trying to outdo the next person, and it's garbage music. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
The symphony works when everybody works together.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I wouldn't say is the well-oiled symphony, but we're trying to make music here. So you're the guy who's like hitting the cymbals, and that's not a glorious spot, right? But without it, you don't have those dynamic moments, and the whole thing kind of falls apart. And you have to do your job well. So I think you want to be the celloist or the violinist that everybody looks at, or the pianist, and those are the key spots on in a symphony, right? Something like that. And there's people playing the flute in the background that nobody cares about. Nobody knows by name the world's best flutist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Flautist, or I don't know how they say
I
it.
think it's flautist.
Yeah, flautist is strange. Yeah, so nobody knows,
Hmm.
and you're like boop 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 boop. Nobody cares about me. I'm not moving along like a trajectory.
I just it's an ego thing for sure.
Yeah.
And
What's up with your ego?
I know.
Well, I'll kill it.
How do you? Because I know it's just in my own head, just trying.
I can help you fix all your problems.
I know you can.
Usually the problem is
I'm not willing to change.
yes,
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah.
But you already know that now.
I do.
So you have a ridge. You and Aaron, and sometimes Jona, are kind of in the same boat. You're right. That's why you guys get along so well. It's a ship of fools. Like, hey man, what's up, bro? Right? I've been trying to work with Aaron for years now. Years, not months or days or weeks. Years, saying this is how you should edit, man. I know a thing or two about editing. I don't know the technical parts, but theoretically, this is how you should work. And he would fight me for a long time. Then he would adopt something, and he would grow. And the faster he can adopt and say, look, there's somebody who knows more about this, who's been doing it longer. But even if I did it all wrong, even if I'm the lamest, dumbest guy in editing, if you did it my way, it's like at least he rises in esteem in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm the guy who's signing checks and giving promotions and whatever else, sending people on trips, then that's what would matter.
Mm-hmm.
So you're holding on to your version of reality when if you were the person measuring your own performance, then keep holding on to it. But you're not.
Mm-hmm.
You have managers above you and an owner above you who's trying to get things to go. What we're trying to do is put each person in the lane that's best suited for them based on the skills they bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the real crux of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Your perception of the skills you bring to the table aren't what you want it to be. There's dissonance there.
Will you explain that?
Yes, I will. Like say you can throw a ball really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, go throw the ball, throw it outside for 100 hours.
Mm-hmm.
But you're like, but we make videos here. Why am I throwing the ball? So the skill that you bring to the table isn't what you think is what everybody else should be doing here. There's misalignment there, right? You've been given the task of managing Young Guns Season 2.
Mm-hmm.
It has not blown up in any kind of measurable way.
Mm-hmm.
Not your fault. You're working on it. You're doing the best you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're also tasked with like keeping the system running, the systems in terms of the gear, the lighting, and developing that. And you may say like, it doesn't feel like I'm managing people and it feels like grunt work or whatever it feels like to you. I don't know. But when we don't have a lens and we don't have the tripod and fools are like leaving things and breaking stuff, the whole system comes down. So all you can do is do your best to get the systems in place and listen to the wise counsel you've been given but keep ignoring and do it that way. And if you do it that way versus resisting, not only will you finish your task, but then people will look back like, wow, figured it out like that. Amazing. We're not challenging this person enough now. Do you think in the very beginning of my life, my career, that I was just put in the plum position instantly? You think that? No. I just did what people told me to do. And I did it better than everybody else that they could not help but to see that we're not getting our money's worth by putting this person in this position. I never asked for it, just things happen. And they happen really quickly if you know what to do, when to do it, how to listen, when to be independent, when to follow orders. Last time during the internship, Sarah had asked me, the intern crew, Sarah had asked me, like, when do you break the rules and when do you follow the rules, Chris? And I gave her the answer. So I suggest everybody watching this episode, I'm pretty sure you've already seen it, but to go watch the episode right now.
Or you're not going to share when to break the rules and when to...
I don't want to repeat myself. No, I went on that for like 30 minutes.
Click on that link.
Yeah, why haven't you watched it?
I want to know.
So here's some other things I noticed about some of you. I'm going to say this in the broadest sense. I'm going to be very honest with you guys. I mean, there's nothing I haven't been honest with, but I'm just going to get right into the meat. This is what After Hours is about, and you're just going to feel hot in your seat pretty soon. I notice things about people here, very specific individuals, and I'm going to tell you what I admire. What I like is that some people here, and I won't name names just yet, some people here spend a lot of time studying the content that we produce. They watch the videos, they watch the live streams, they watch the pro calls, and they know the content really, really well. If nothing else, it demonstrates to me somebody really wants to understand the things that we're doing here. While some of us only work on and watch the things that we're assigned to watch. So the people who really take time to understand what it is I'm saying, we've already talked about this. I put a signal out into the world, and those people send a signal back. What you say matters. What you say matters. That's called full value listening. Some of us don't even watch. Even if you cut the video, you don't watch it somehow. It seems odd, right? Because really, no one should know the content better than the editors. If I were giving you personal coaching, I don't know how else better to do it. Here's something that I'm saying to people who see this message once, and then they double their income. They triple their prices. They get renewed confidence, motivation, inspiration. You would think the person who's been staring at it for 4 days, who's been cutting it and replaying it back in their mind over and over again, they should be growing the fastest. I don't know why. Why are strangers getting greater reward from just watching the content versus the people inside the company? Answer me that.
I feel like, because I edit the content a lot. And
I'm sitting in front of 3 editors.
Yeah, I feel like it gets ingrained in my brain. I'm very, what's the word? Like, because I just absorb things really easy, I feel like. I can't help but just internalize and absorb everything, even little things. I blow them up big. So when I watch the edit and the lessons you're teaching, it gets stored in my brain. And sometimes I'll watch it so many times that I'll get something new out of it. And I'm like, ooh, finally it clicked. Now I get what he's saying. And then that'll help me do the edit. But I feel like I've learned so much. And the problem is it's all locked up in there. And it's helping me feel good about my life and how to conduct myself with other people. But in terms of tangible monetary results, maybe not seeing any.
Right. How come? You're saying you've learned the lessons. When you say it's locked up, I think I know what you mean. When you say locked up, if I may, how do we release it? We release it by converting it to something. You haven't converted it to much. Therefore, you've not received much of the value, right? Okay. We've already said this before, right? Jim Rohn. Here we go. We can't do an after hours without me quoting Jim Rohn. Right? Wealth is your ability to convert knowledge and experience into equity and capital. You've not converted. So you have to ask yourself, if you heard that message from me 1,000 times, which I'm sure everybody's watching, is like, here it comes. It will be Blair Enns, Jim Rohn, or something else. Here it comes. It's going to happen. Why haven't you converted? Do you need time to think about it, or you already know?
I feel like I know the answer to that because I've been thinking about it a lot.
Okay.
Which is, for so long, it took me so long to like lock my brain into like, you need to learn new things and absorb before you start doing things. Because I would just do things and get nowhere. And now the problem is just, I'm all about just absorbing things. Where I read things, I'm reading articles, reading just everything, watching the kits and courses. And now when I listen to something, I'm not judging it and getting emotional like, oh, Chris doesn't know anything. When you're not even there, it's just a video. I don't do that anymore. I just listen to what you're saying, and I don't get mad. I just absorb it, and that's it. And I'm just so focused on that I'm like, now I'm getting the message. Okay, it's time to take some of that and try to make something. A video or a post or something. Is that what you're saying? Make something like that?
Convert it. Well, it doesn't even have to be like that. Watch this. You eat food, lots of it. What happens to that food if you don't convert it?
Turn to this guy.
You turn it into Ricky Lucas?
Oh.
Yeah, you get fat, right? You get big. Your waistline increases because you've just consumed. That's what's happening to your brain. Your brain's getting fat. And that's not a good thing necessarily. You need to use that energy. Use it. So how do you use it? You could help, advise. You can follow me on Twitter and people ask questions. And people are doing this now, which is pretty incredible for me to see. People are practicing coaching and advising other people. And they wait for one of my threads to start, and they start answering all the questions because they know I cut it off after an hour. So theoretically, if you've learned what I've been sharing with you, you could simply comment. You can respond to questions on YouTube, on Twitter. Excuse me. You could just respond. And then people are like, wow, who's this Aaron Sleepy Castle guy? This guy's on point. But you haven't.
And that's such a small...
It's so easy.
I don't have to make a whole video. I can just...
No,
answer a post.
why climb Everest when you can just take a walk outside? Start simple. And then all of a sudden, hey, Chris, I just picked up 400 new followers on Twitter. Hey, Chris, I just did X, Y, and Z, and they're following me on Instagram now because I'm commenting and responding. I'm sharing. I'm burning off that energy. And here's the cool part. See, like when you eat something and then you work out, what happens?
You look like this guy. That's what I'm saying.
You convert.
Buff and
You're
strong.
getting two benefits. You're burning the energy and you're building muscle. I think the same thing goes with sharing knowledge. So when you make a comment, you cement the knowledge in your brain. And here's the cool thing. Not that we all need feedback and validation, but it's nice to have it from time to time. Somebody's like, wow, that was dope, dude. Thanks for helping me. It's super clear. Well said. If I didn't know any better, I think Chris is saying that. Is this Chris? And you're like, whoa, dude, I've learned this thing and I'm getting better at it. So why wouldn't you do it? You're what we call, or I call, an information hoarder. You just hoard and your brain's really swollen up right now. Your brain is on diabetes right now. It's type 3.
Yikes.
All right? It's time to get some insulin. Time to burn it off, man.
Yeah.
Right? Burn off that energy. So you could do a quick little post. I never see you post. Or I should say never. I rarely see you post and say, I've been thinking about this thing about pricing or this thing that I've been stuck on and now I've recently got some clarity on that and I want to just share what I've learned. But you don't do that. I know what you guys do, but we'll talk about that in a second.
Ooh.
Right? So you could do that. Or you can create a graphic. You can use your newfound typographic skills, lay something out because people like visuals. You can make a 30-second video, just turn on Instagram Live and just like, hey, people, here's one thing I want to share with you today. This really was sticking in my brain. I just feel so compelled to share it with you. Boom. In a way, these things here are you converting. That's what it is. I think that's why people connect to these episodes. Like, oh, there's an interesting dialogue going on. The guys that prepared, they're coming with questions, they're doing follow-up, they're pushing, they're pooling. Conversion's happening. And could be that at the end of each episode, you guys gain some esteem from the audience, from the community, from me. But that's what you need to do. You're sitting on stuff and there's no point. Okay. What else?
I just want to reiterate what I learned because I feel like that's
Based on what we just talked about right now?
a little bit ago.
Okay.
Recapping?
So when I asked the question, since I'm insecure here at work, how do I deal with being given responsibilities that I view aren't getting us closer to the goal here at the company? The symphony works when everybody does their job. So like just accepting that, getting over your ego, and do everything you've been asked to do better than anyone could do it. Those are the 2 takeaways I had.
Yeah. And there's one key takeaway that's not written there.
Okay.
Who knows why, but when you're given certain instructions to do certain things, I think you just got to stop and say, why do I want to do it my way? What's in it for me to do it my way versus the way that people advise me to do it? I'm speaking specifically about you and me. I'm like, Ricky, you want to do that? And like, it's like nothing I say can change the direction that you move in. It feels like that to me. I'm going to be just really direct with you, right? I'm like, dude, don't move stuff just to move it. Think about this. And I don't like this and this happening. And I have a good reason why. And then you're like, no, I think I'm going to do it this way. So each time you do it that way, I'm like, all right, do it your way. Show me Ricky knows better. I'll be happy to say you were right and I was wrong. But more often than not, that doesn't seem to be the way. Even the directors at this company, like Matthew, Ben, and Greg, when they do something and I see like, I've given you as much time to figure it out yourselves, and then I just come in and I'm like, guys, why are you doing this? This is insane to me. Are we thinking correctly? We need to think like this. And these guys are in senior management positions and they have all this experience. Then they stop and like, oh, we're not thinking about this clearly. They switch gears.
Isn't that kind of like the beauty of this company, is that everybody's given so much freedom to...
You guys have more freedom here than you have anywhere else.
Right, I agree. But like, isn't that kind of how, like, the ethos of the company? Like, you're given freedom and you're going to mess up, and then me, Christo, I will course correct you.
Yeah.
Right, so...
What's your question?
Like, I feel like that's why mistakes get made on my end, is because I'm given
except
freedom.
for when I come in and give you the course correction and you don't course correct. That's the problem.
I got you now.
It's like me coming in saying to Ben, Greg, and Matt, like, guys, why we're doing this is insane. Flip the script. Here's what I'm thinking. Let's go for rock and roll, baby. And then nothing changes.
Okay.
Guess what happens? What do you think happens in my mind and in their position? Aaron already knows. What happens? Articulate that. Ricky?
You get frustrated. You get super upset.
Well, and then what happens?
You want to give them less freedom.
Yes. I trusted you to do this. I gave you all the freedom to do it. And then when the correction needed to be made, you didn't make it.
Why do you think I did it that way? Or why do you, because I don't think I don't
understand your
Why
brain.
is he not making the correction?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, speculate.
I'll speculate. You want me to speculate? Because he thinks he's right. 100%. Or he's so committed to seeing something through that he will not change. He will not open himself up. It's like he's mid-swing on the bat and he can't go like this now. He doesn't have the mental dexterity to do it. Now, I think I've talked about this before. I think Tony Robbins says this. The single biggest driver of human behavior is the desire to be consistent with themselves. You ever say something stupid in your mouth and you're hanging out with the guys, you're like, oh yeah, this happened in Dakota. And then later on in your brain, you're like, no, it didn't happen. I messed up. But you won't correct yourself. And they're like, no, it doesn't. And then you argue with them. Yeah, it is. Even though you know you're wrong. You ever get in a fight with your girlfriend and she says this and that, and you're like, I'm just going to fight her because I need to feel like I'm in control and I'm consistent. And you keep going down the path versus like throwing up your hands and saying, I'm wrong. That is correct. I messed up. I suspect it's ego. Ego is the shorthand to blame for lots of things, and we'll just keep doing it. We'll kick ego in the nuts again and say it's ego's fault, right? I mean, Ben Burns said something to me like relatively shortly after he joined the company. He's like, dude, I thought I have a small ego, but compared to you guys, my ego's ginormous. I'm like, well, work on it. It's not serving you any good right now. It's really not.
How would you work on it? On the ego?
Do you have a big ego?
Possibly. Maybe.
I mean, even if you have a small one, it comes up and it messes up your life.
It messes up your life.
So maybe, do you have any tips on how to deal with it?
Yeah. Think of ego as bias. Most people don't like bias. Like prejudice. A predetermined conclusion. You're not seeing clearly. So what's happening is I believe your ego is emotional and it's raw and it's saying, I don't like the way this feels. You look at that part and you tell that part to shut up. Let's get the job right. This is why two idiot dudes on the road get into to fights because of road rage.
Ego.
Ego.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm more of a man. How dare I'm gonna show that person I'm boss and get out of the car and you get shot in the leg and your life is ruined.
Instead of just admitting you were
Move on.
wrong. Yeah.
Just move on, man. I think it's attachment. You're attached to what
who
you
you
said
are,
and have
yeah.
done versus stopping. You have a consistent behavior that's familiar to you, so you keep wanting to do that same thing over and over and over again. So here's the truth. If you keep doing that, what happens to the managers? They say, you know what? It's not worth my time and trouble anymore. I'm moving on. Let's just give that person whatever they want to do. And we're not going to challenge them in new positive directions, right? You lower in esteem in our eyes because it's like, we're done. How many times can I try to get this person to do this thing? Forget about it. I'm going to spend my energy on the new fresh recruit. They seem to show more potential. That sucks. Maybe that's what you're feeling.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, what can you do about that?
Change your ways.
Just wrangle that ego.
Yeah. Wrangle your bias. So I look at it like this, and Arrow said this, and so it's not even my own idea, right? There's just two intentions in life, to learn or to be right. To learn or to be right. Right is saying to be consistent with what you've said and done in the past. It's really powerful. He says you can be right, but you will also be very lonely. Let that sink in. You're going to be very lonely. You'll be the boyfriend that's very lonely. You'll be the father that's very lonely. You'll be the employee that's very lonely.
I love that. It's the other day I was hanging out with someone, with a girl, and she just made some offhanded comment. She asked me, "Are you depressed?" And I was like, "No. Why would you think I'm depressed? You know, like, where's that even coming from?" And it might have been just like, I don't know, like a language barrier thing or something. Maybe they meant something else. But for me, my mind grabbed onto that. Like, what does that mean? Like, you're just some loser, whatever.
Oh, about yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, my brain was like trying to argue with that, like, and be like, try to prove that that wasn't true, to be right, versus just like learn from it. Oh, it probably means maybe you're just falling asleep, a little low energy, or whatever. Let it go. Maybe perk up the energy, learn a lesson, and move on. Yeah.
I'm pretty self-assured, very strong in my beliefs, but the minute I hear a better one, I'm done. Old one goes away. So people hear me contradict myself a lot. It's because I have new information. That's the point of new information. If you guys were flat earthers and then there's proof that the world is round, you're like, no, I believe this for 14 years. There's no way. And people did that. Mm-hmm. And people are still denying it today. Right? Global warming? No, there's no such thing. Just hold on to it because, like Tony Robbins says, this force, this motivation to be consistent with yourself, it's both good and bad. And I've been consistent with this with you guys. And you can see this. You can see this in the way I talk to people who I choose to take under my wing. And they're almost always the same type. They're easily coachable. They don't mind doing the work. So what does that mean, easily coachable?
They adopt quickly.
They just do what they're told.
Yeah.
What coach wants to work with somebody that doesn't want to change, Ricky?
Not a whole lot of coaching.
No coach.
Yeah.
I mean, do you coach Little League or anything like that? Have you ever done it?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
There's this skinny kid who's like freaking 2 left hands and slow and
It's work
low
ethic.
energy, but they just, whatever you tell them to do,
Yeah.
you say, go home right now and I want you to do 50 push-ups. They come back, I did my best. I only did 36. You're like, that's good enough. Let's keep working on it. And soon enough, they're like your AAA player where Johnny A starts like perfect skills, hand-eye coordination. And you're like, hey, Johnny, swing the bat this way. Try this. He's like, you swing the bat that way. Like, we're done. Good luck, Johnny. So Johnny A starts off strong. And that's the problem with strong starters. they finish last. Tortoise and a hare. So ask yourself, why do you love doing the things the way you want to do them more than growing, learning?
It's funny because like as you're saying it, I'm trying to think and reflect like, why didn't I adopt what you said? And I'm just like, maybe I wasn't clear, but I'm thinking maybe you were very clear and I just wasn't listening.
I think it's that because I used to feel that way too. Like you would tell me like, why aren't you doing what I told you to do?
And I'm like, I'm not trying to.
I did. Though.
Like that's the problem.
It's like freaking frack over here. It's
I
like,
was like you got upset today, and I was like,
I didn't get upset.
No. We were just talking about it. You're like, there was like a misalignment, and I was like, why didn't I just?
should we just be real clear about what the heck we're talking about because people aren't in this room?
Sure.
All right, let's set it up, okay?
Okay.
I'll set it up the way I remember it, and
Okay.
you correct me, and you have full permission to say, no, that's not how it went down.
All right.
All right. You've been tasked with managing the equipment room,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not a small equipment room, and we have a lot of equipment, but we don't have that much equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I see things being moved around, and you seem really happy about it. I walk over, I'm like, what are we doing? You know, I'm going to put this up because we want to hang the tools on the board.
Mm-hmm.
And so the person who set up the system prior to that was who? You're looking at him, me.
Oh, yeah.
So you're telling me by your actions, Chris, I have a better idea than you. And you've already started to dismantle it. So that system's been broken for a while now, right?
Right.
Okay, hold on to that thought. And then you're like, I'm going to hang tools. And I come in, I say, Ricky, how often do we use tools? And let's talk about the time in which we use something and we're developing systems that don't make sense. Think about the triangle kitchen model, really design it around how we use things and then get really organized around that.
Mm-hmm.
And usually you set up a blueprint, you kind of think things through. You may get feedback and input from other people like, this is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me. You're like, got it. I come back a couple days later, boom, the tools are being hung up. So I'm like, did you listen to anything I said? I don't know. Now go ahead, tell your side.
I just want, because like we had that like you're doing things and it needs to play longevity and like use, and we went to each room and you like kind of laid out your idea and you were kind of like, okay, why are we doing this? I mean, you can do your tool idea, sure, but like, why are we doing these things? And that's what I heard. That's what I remember.
So you don't remember like, why are we hanging up tools?
I heard you go, I'm not sure why you're doing this, but go ahead, do your thing.
Yeah.
So then today I was confused because I was like, oh, I thought I got the go ahead.
Okay, so you only listen to the parts you want to hear.
No.
If I literally said to you, why are you doing this? We don't build things here very often. Why would you do this? But I'm telling you this as feedback, not to tell you what to do. So go ahead and do what it is you want to do. So you're like, everything's cool. See, so that part of your ears doesn't hear
Is a
so
little
well.
broken.
Doesn't hear so well.
Like that, what
Could you
just
hear that,
said-
Aaron?
Yeah, you're like, Chris told you, I don't know why we're doing that pegboard thing, but go ahead and just do your thing. That means the pegboard thing, Chris didn't like it, we shouldn't do it. But continue on your path of doing this gear room thing. That's what I would have heard.
And I'll tell you something. The reason why I say it the way I say it, it might be confusing to you, because I know a couple of things about human beings. Do not rob people of their autonomy. Do not rob them of their experience of figuring things out, because then all they do is to become automatons and just do what it is you tell them. I don't want to create a company full of automatons. That's not my desire.
That's why we
But
have so
if I
much
give you
freedom.
feedback, process the feedback and figure out a better solution, or potentially you have figured out that the tools must be there and there's 1,000 reasons why and Chris is so wrong. At which case, I will be the first to admit to you, you had a better idea. I haven't thought about the problem as deeply as you have, and your solution is superior, sir. But very rarely has that happened.
That's a good, I want to highlight what you said.
Go ahead.
You got to process the feedback, because if you were a guy that just comes in and says, stop doing the pegboard, do this, do that, then you create the automaton. But then on the positive side of that, it's very clear to Ricky what he needs to do. But on the other side of it, the way you're choosing to do it, where you give someone kind of a vaguer sort of directive, where he kind of can now have autonomy to do the thing, it requires that he process the feedback and really think about the conversation and what you said. That's the difference.
Yeah. And I gave you positive feedback and I gave you critical feedback all day long. When you hear the positives, like, why did that work? Because we want to replicate that.
Yeah.
Like the cables worked.
Yeah. We talked
It wasn't our first time at bat, but we finally got it right, and here we are. Fantastic. What do we learn from this? Sit down and think about how we use things and make it work specific to the solution, right? Like when we started clamping things on this table, which wasn't meant to do, all kinds of crazy, stupid things happen, right? What did I do? I ordered mics so that all the same mics. I ordered the 4 of the exact same arms. You and I sat down. And I said, drill a hole through the table. You're like, what, Chris? Drill holes through tables? Yeah, I'm like, fine, don't worry about it. Because I thought about it and figured out the solution. I mean, they're not 14 holes in the table, just 4. And now it works. And it's the way it's supposed to be without a pool of spaghetti-like cables on the floor. It works. You have to ask yourself, why do you love your ideas so much that new input comes in? You're like, nope, I still right. And this has been pretty consistent. I'm not saying it's the first and only time. And I still let you do whatever it is you want to do. See, this is like a new management style, right? And I'll tell you why. Look at this. And this will make sense to you. Let's talk about editing. I go in, I'm like, Aaron, that edit's not working, man. Let me sit down with you. Move this, trim that shot. Let me find this other shot. And I start telling him literally what to do. What happens to him? Happiness goes down because loss of control goes down, lack of progress. Now I'm just hands for Chris because otherwise he's thinking, why don't you just sit down and edit it? Because it'd be much faster than me just being a monkey for you. So I want to go in and say, hey, this part's working, here's why. This part isn't working, here's why. Now, can you solve that? So he's still able to use his brain. He may come up with ideas that I've not thought about because he's seen shots that I don't have. Or maybe he's got this super clever idea on how to use music and a super to change the whole meaning of it. I don't know. The last thing I want to do as a manager is to rob him of that. This is what I think leadership is about. It's not literally sitting down and doing it all for you. Because guess what, Ricky? I have downtime. I get to sit here and map it out, draw a floor plan, figure it out, do a little research, probably in 10th of the time, and just figure it out. I don't want to rob you of that. But at the same token, I sit back and like, he's still doing what he wants to do, and it's taking really long to get there. Why? I don't know. Put a bullet through my brain.
Yikes.
No, I mean, you know that song, Bullet Through the Brain?
No. So it just sounded intense.
Yeah,
No, it's like, there's a song, isn't it?
Kill
Bullet
me
Through my
'cause of
brain.
Rick.
Feels like a dun, 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 like Rage Against the Machine. I don't know.
I am not sure. Okay.
So ask yourself, what's the answer? Why? You're looking through your notes to figure out why.
What are you asking me?
I'm asking you, why are you so in love with that train that you're on? You won't get off the train. I see this happen all the time. Actually, you see it happen all the time too. When I coach people, I say to them, oh, you should consider this. Next week is exactly the same. And you're sitting there, dummy, he's giving you advice. Why don't you do it? I don't know. He's only got 20 plus years of experience on you. Why you don't do it? Stupid, stupid, stupid. And you walk away, right? We joke about this from time to time. And then I'm like, hey, Ricky, I don't know if you want to do the tools there. Because really, how often do we use those freaking tools? But they're organized, god darn it. They're freaking organized.
I feel like I see it because in that moment,
You see
I was
it?
there. I think I get it.
Okay, you saw it both times?
No, I mean, I think I see it.
Oh, you see it. Chris, you're listening to the words, but you're not hearing me, man. Go ahead.
Like, because I was standing there when you were giving him the feedback on
Yeah.
the gear room. And I feel like it's like there's same problem with me and Jona. There's so many things flying through his brain that aren't listening to what you're saying right now.
Not present?
Because he's probably thinking, oh man, this is the moment where I gotta look good for Chris, man, you know, because he's the boss and I'm the employee. This is where he's checking in on all the work I've done for the last 2-3 weeks. And I gotta look good, I gotta answer these questions, whatever. Well, he's not listening really to what you're saying.
No, he's not.
Not fully. Maybe
Doesn't
he
seem
is,
like it.
But not fully.
Right.
Because then he would hear all the things you're saying.
Why do you do that, Aaron?
Why do I do that?
Yeah.
For me, I chalk it up to it's just I'm unable to detach myself from the situation.
Yes.
I'm just all absorbed in it, and I'm
You're feeling attacked.
feeling.
You're emotional.
Yes.
You're like, oh,
That's
man.
Yes.
That's all you're feeling.
It's that, and I
Yeah.
can't. All that's just I'm rude to listen.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Because your limbic brain is on overdrive right now.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh man, I got to prove myself. I got to back up the things that everything
So
I've
you just
been-
dig in.
You gotta
Yeah.
back up
And I
your-
got to
dig in.
sink
That's
in the
see?
sand.
Yeah.
And I
Just
gotta,
like everybody else that does that.
That's tough. But it's because, yeah, you have to justify every decision that you made was the right decision.
Why?
Why? I don't.
I don't know. That's how I feel. Like, if you ask a question, I have to have a reason why I did everything.
Let me tell you a story
Okay.
and tell me how you would react.
Okay.
Okay? You worked on some design.
Mm-hmm.
You worked really hard on it. You think the clients are going to love it. And you go present this design to your client. And the client's sending you all the signals. I'm not loving this. But the clients are polite, as they tend to be. Because we're not the experts. We did hire you. But we're not feeling it. And they're doing that with body language. And you ask them, like, which one do you love? And they're like, this one? And you're like, yes, in your mind. And you go, and you keep going, and you keep going. So you get to the end, and the design's almost done. You're 9/10 of the way done. And the client calls you and says, yeah, you know, I don't feel it. I'm going to submit some other design ideas to you. Can you get these things done? And you're like, oh, my God, what are you doing to me? Why would I ever do that? This is stupid. You don't respect anything that I do. What happened there? Well, what happened is you did some work. You fell in love with your own junk. And when you asked for feedback, you really didn't want feedback. You just wanted
Positive, affirm.
accolades
Yeah.
and affirmations. You're the most amazing human being. And even though you don't hear anything close to that, you've got these plugs in your ear, these happy ears that you put on. Like you put on the normal ears, and you took off the normal ears and you put on your happy ears. Like no matter what, it's freaking, I'm a genius. So you force the clients to pick something, and they do. They regret it, and they sit on this. And this happens to probably a vast majority of creative people. Because their question to me is always like, oh, how do you convince the clients? Like, why are you interested in convincing the clients? How do you get them not to change things this deep into the process? Well, you didn't do a very good job of listening. You didn't create the space for them to tell you the truth when you needed it, at the beginning and not at the end. Right? Somebody emailed or DM'd me today, and they said, you know, I presented stylescapes to the client. I presented 2 options. What should I do if they don't love it? Like, what's wrong with them? Isn't the point of stylescapes is to do minimal amount of work so you can get feedback and get buy-in? So even in the initial feedback phase, they already closed their mind off to feedback. Well, I gotta tell you something. Do a little work now or do a lot of work later. You understand what I'm saying when I say that?
Mm-hmm.
Do a little work now, up front to the beginning. Change the plan. Don't wait for the concrete to be poured and the framing to go up and the drywall to put up for then the clients to say, this design doesn't work. Why? I told you that at the beginning, but you just didn't listen to me. And I gave you the trust, since you're the expert, that this was going to work out. And guess what? It didn't work out. Who's screwed now? Almost always it'll be you.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can see it clearly when it happens to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
We're
Ego.
not attached to it.
Ego. Bias. There are no happy ears because you had nothing invested in it. That's why. A thing that served me really well most of my creative life. If I make something, as soon as I let go of it, it's not even my thing anymore. It's just a thing that somebody created. So I can look at it objectively, unbiased. So when somebody says something about it, I can also hear it. I may not like it. I'm not saying love it, but at least I can hear it and process it and figure it out. I was having a management meeting with the team. I said something and Matt's like, hey, are we off track here? I'm like, first I was like, what? Are we off track? Does everybody feel like we're off track? And nobody gave me any feedback because they're not super excited to challenge me. I'm like, oh, I can see in not confirming that I'm going off track, you are confirming I'm going off track. So I just switched gears. I didn't love it, but I'm like, we'll switch gears, fine. And if you think about it, I'm in the position of power and control. And for me to just stop midstream, like, okay, fine, let's move on. What's the next thing you guys want to talk about? How can I do that? And I'm the guy who gets to make decisions. I'm the guy who can say, you know what, screw it. I don't care if we're off track. This is what I'm talking about. Right? It's well within my right. Like, I sign your freaking paycheck. Shut the front door, sit here and listen.
That's funny.
But I don't. And here's Ricky Lucas like, no, I don't care what Chris says. I'm going to keep doing my thing.
It sounds so bad. Yeah.
Don't it?
Yeah. It's.
Why does it sound so bad, Aaron?
Why does it sound so bad?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't sound that way in my head, but when it comes out, I guess that's because that's how it's being interpreted. Is like in my head, I went, nope, I'm right, Chris is wrong. But
Is that how you said it?
no,
You just said in your head.
like no, that's how
In
it's
that
coming out.
subconscious
That's how it's coming out to you. It's like Ricky heard what I said and didn't do the things I told him.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hearing is that Ricky's right and I'm wrong. Which in my head it doesn't sound like that at all. It's like me and Chris are working on this thing. He had an idea and I had an idea and we made this thing together. It was great.
Right, this is fantastic. Could you see how that's not even remotely attached to reality?
I'm just now kind of seeing that like
What part of my input did you take?
the kitchen and we're working.
Right,
and
you just
think about
heard
it.
words.
Yeah.
You just heard
I'm like,
words.
we worked on
And
this so hard.
What did you translate that into? I saw nothing change.
Yeah.
I've told you 1,000 times, I have this beautiful label maker that makes beautiful labels just for cables. And you've used it 0 times. And what you've done is you used the wrong label maker to make the labels and they look ugly. Or you use a piece of tape that's gaff tape, not the right purpose, and you put it on things.
That's true.
I've told you guys 1,000 times, don't use Post-it notes to take notes.
Yeah.
1,000 times. Use the right tool for the job. How many times have you done that? Still see the Post-it notes everywhere. Why? You're in love with your own stuff. Period. You know, this may sound egotistical, but there are people who ask me, Chris, what's your process? I want to learn your process. Literally down to like, what paper stock are you using to write those things on? What pen are you using? And then there's all these guys around me. I'm like, dude, do it this way. Here's the pen. Like, no. I got this, bro. I got it. I'm just going to do it my way. I know better. I'm like, okay, you know better. Do it. And then all of a sudden, you see these young bucks just jumping over you. It's like, what is happening to me? Why? I don't understand. It's so mysterious. Because I want to work with people who are highly coachable. That makes sense. I don't care if you're dumb, you're poor, you're skinny, you're fat, whatever color you are. Man, if you're coachable, I want to work with you. Period. Instead, we have all these strong-willed people who are attached and in love with their own process, their own thinking, their ego. My poop don't stink. I'm just going to keep shoveling that stuff. I usually do a little mental test with my students. When I say my students, I'm not saying like in a universal sense, like everybody's my student. I mean, literally, people are enrolled in my class, okay? So I don't want people to misconstrue this. The little test is, I'm gonna give them some feedback. Next week, I wanna see the amount of progress towards that feedback versus the people who fight it. The ones who jump on the feedback, change and progress, I give them more of my time. The ones that don't, I'm gonna start reeling back my time. It's natural, right?
Yeah, I've noticed that.
So if you see me spending less and less time with you, you'll know why. It's obvious. I'm not stupid. I have a finite amount of time. I want to help those that can be helped. The other ones, hashtag lost souls.
See you later.
And you know because you see it. You and I talk about it when it's other people and you're like, ha, 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 so clear. So clear, man. I honestly think if the three of you guys were super coachable, came in here, blank slate, killed the ego, I'm ready to go, I could make superstars out of you guys.
Man, that sounds good.
I mean, look at the people who used to be my students who are managers now.
I think that's something that I've realized today is the ego is a trickier foe than it seemed, because it's weird if you think like a guy like Ricky or like me, if someone tries to tell you what to do, you're like, no, I know what to do, and you do it your way. It's like you're confident, you're a leader, because no one's telling you what to do, you're telling other people what to do. So I'm a leader, I'm confident, this is the way I should be. But really, if you want to be a true leader like one of these guys here, you have to first be the guy that is wrong about everything and you're just learning and you do exactly as you're told and don't question it. And slowly then, right? Something like that? Kind of lost me at the end.
I'll give you, it's okay. One of your voices popped up. It's probably what happened. I'll give you another example right now, okay? I think you guys might enjoy this example. So Matthew, I send a message out to Matthew and Mark. I say, hey, let's put some money against this building a brand thing to see if we can't get it to pop and go viral. because it's not being picked up by any design publications or blogs just yet, because we wanted to get to the couple 100,000 mark. And we know that the episodes will perform well, but the internet doesn't love a grinder. It loves a superstar, a darling, right? It's like if it popped and it was trending on Google and YouTube, and it's like it's going to blow up and create all of its interest, because we'd love to take the series to a place where people can fund it and we can do this the right way versus shoestring budget and part-time kind of thing, right? So Matthew sends back an email to me and he says, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to take a certain budget and we're going to spread it across all the episodes. So in my mind, I'm thinking, I sent you a signal. You sent me a different signal back. Jona, you can see what I'm saying, right? Then I send him another email. I say, hey, look, my idea is if you take a budget and you chop it up amongst 8 episodes, you've diluted the effort. Take that one budget and put it against one video and do everything you can to get that one video to go viral. Because if it does, a rising tide lifts all boats. They'll be curious about the other episodes. And I wait to hear the response. But I say what I always say to all of you, which is, that's my belief, but you have the right to do whatever you want. Okay, hold on. Which you hear, right?
Right.
Ricky's like, stay with the course, gentlemen. Stay with the course. The plan is excellent. The boss said, go ahead and do whatever it is you want.
Well, no, it's just...
Hold on. A beat happens. Well, you can see this one because it's not you. It's very clear. Beat later. Get an email back. What do you think he says?
We're going to put it towards one episode.
He says, you're right. We're going to put it towards one episode.
It's still crazy that, like, even someone so
Yeah.
like high up as Matthew
Was like,
No,
oh,
Jonah doesn't speak out. Jonah, pull the mic up to your face, will you? Tell us what it is you're going to say.
No, I'm just still blown away because I see like Matthew like he knows it all.
He's
like,
rogue leader.
Yeah. But even he can like still sometimes make mistakes like that.
Yeah.
Like not big ones, but like
No, because
Well-
he was like, yeah, he misconstrued the information and he sent a signal back where it wasn't what you were trying to convey. So it's like, it's kind of reassuring to me knowing that.
See, it's crazy. That's how you want to interpret the
'cause I'm
story.
like, okay, so even Matthew sometimes will misread the smoke signals. Like he was given something to do by you. He was like, yeah, we're going to do it this way. And you're like, oh, I didn't say that. I said something else. But if that's what you want to do, Matt, like you're
Okay.
So like,
Let's say this so it's super, super clear.
Okay.
Okay. For everybody. I think Jonah understands it, but let me be super ultra crystal clear on this. Okay. What I said was, here's the desire. The desire is to get the videos to go viral. A video to go viral. That's an important detail. And I said, I think put the budget against one video. Or maybe I didn't. I don't know. I said, I thought it was very, very clear, but you know, depending on when I wrote it and how much time I had, who knows what I said. But the message is get one video to go viral. So the communication, maybe lack of clarity. I can accept that my emails aren't always clear, for sure. They're not. Then it gets into his brain and he's like, yeah, let's take a budget. So the tactics now get screwed up. The goal may not have been clear. So the tactics, the execution of such goal is then misconstrued. Okay? So then I recalibrate and said, remember the goal. Here's what I recommend for tactics. And then he has to objectively and logically, and he knows this, he can say and do whatever he wants, right? Because he's built the trust and I don't manage that way anyways. But he has to step back and say, that is the goal that we want to achieve. That does make sense. Change gears.
listen to feedback.
And he has 10 years of experience on you, Ricky.
One thing I'm hearing is I feel like there's something we do is if someone says something to us, like Chris, we just summarize it and just store the summary, which is kind of what happened in that situation where Chris was saying, we want one episode to go viral. Matthew sounds like he heard, oh, let's put some money behind this building a brand thing. Two different things.
No. I'm almost doing the exact same thing with both of you guys. I literally told Matt, put money against building a brand. We want one video to go viral.
But he missed that one video to go viral.
Or maybe he had a different idea. Because he's like, yes, we're going to do this. And I'm going to assume, I don't know. And Matt, if he watches this, he'll say, this is really what happened. But I feel like he already had a plan and the plan was sitting there. So when new information comes in It didn't sound like what he wanted to hear, so he just kept doing what he wanted to hear.
And he made it
so he
fit.
says it back to me, and I'm like, no. It's better if we put all the money against one video versus the money and dilute it towards 8 videos. Okay? And I can understand logically why somebody would want to do that. You hedge your bets because you don't know which one's going to hit. And picking one means you have to make a decision, and it's hard to make a decision. It's to say you have 8 children, only one to get to survive, right? And you have to pick, and nobody wants to do that. But that's what leadership is. It's saying, I'm going to pick this one. Let's make it happen. And I'm also using a playbook that has worked really well for us before. You remember how we had the Money Talk series, Aaron? I already told you, episode 3 is the one that everybody's going to want to tune into and put some energy against that. Forget about, I didn't even care if you cut episodes 1, 2, and 4. I just wanted on 3 because I knew 3 was going to be the one. I already knew. So you cut episode 1, you cut episode 2, 3, and then 4, sequentially like that. So if you were listening, really listening, you would have stopped, cut episode 3 first, put all your energy in that, and then when you can get to it, do 1, 2, and 4. When the episode went out, it was a slow burner. It's like 20, 30,000 views. Remember? I'm like, God, I don't know what's wrong. Why aren't people watching this and paying attention to it? That's when I asked Mark to run an ad campaign on it, and he did. And that one blew up because I know of all the ones that are going to potentially get a lot of eyes on, this is the one. It's touching on a lot of pain points. It's solving a problem. It's got controversy baked into it. It's got an attitude. So we did. And now that video has 1.7 million views. Not double, but almost double of the next highest performing video. Or I could have said, put money against 4 videos and see what happens. Chances are the results could be the same. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Bruce Lee doesn't fear the man who kicks or practices 1,000 kicks one time, but he does fear the person who practices one kick 1,000 times. Put all your energy against one point and break it. So there's your story to make it super relatable. Right?
Yeah.
Now, if you listen to the story and you really dive deeper, you would hear this. I communicate a goal to Matthew. Matthew has his own idea of how to achieve that goal.
Mm-hmm.
I give him feedback. He course corrects. If it doesn't work out, who would I blame?
Be your fault.
I'd blame Matthew. No, I'm just kidding. No, who could be blamed?
Yeah.
I'd still blame Matthew because he didn't pick the right video. I didn't tell him literally to pick video 7. So he picked a different, honestly, he picked a different video than I would have picked, but
really?
Yeah, he did. But that's okay. So I leave it for people to decide what makes the most sense,
So,
right? Like all the time, people write headlines, people do thumbnails, they do different things than I would do. And I'd say, I don't think that's good. I don't think you have that. I think this is the heart of it. But I'm not going to go in there and change it because I don't want to rob people of that. I don't. But if you notice what I do to my own videos that I'm in, I'll change the headline 4 times. I'm not in love with what I do.
right.
I only want it to be right, to work. I don't care if it's like my first idea was the best one. The internet doesn't like it. Okay, fine, I'll change it. Sure, all right, let me figure it out. I'll try the next thing. I'll keep trying until it works. I think I'm a finger on the pulse, but I'm not always right, for sure. This is about doing the work, being passionate, and then detaching. Detach yourself from your own thing. If you can't learn that, you're going to move very slowly in life. Let's wrap this up.
Yeah. Do we want to? I think it would just be a good idea to what
Summarize?
are my takeaways.
Okay.
And then everybody's.
Let's
takeaways.
give everybody a moment.
Yeah.
Pause, think, reflect.
All right.
Okay.
So, going forward, I'm gonna watch more of the content, start taking the courses, try to familiarize myself.
Let me do this with you.
Okay.
Before you tell me the tactical stuff you're going to do,
Yes.
give me the high level stuff. What's your
Okay.
goal?
Listen to learn, not to be right.
Okay. Let me help you phrase that. Okay. Just remember, you have 2 intentions in life: to learn or to be right. To be right means you'll be really lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Just remember that.
Mm-hmm.
So if your main objective in life is to learn, it means you have to let go of a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
We've been calling it ego, bias, whatever you want to call it. You got to just let it go. If somebody else has a better idea, stop, drop, and roll. Just pick up the new idea and go. Okay, that's your lesson to learn. Aaron, I'm going to help you out with your goal. And then Jona, I can't remember, but we'll figure it out. Oh, dude, I just lost it.
What?
I knew what I needed to tell Aaron, but I can't remember now. I just had it in my mouth, and I was just trying to finish up Ricky's idea, and darn it, I lost it.
Always messing things
Okay,
up, dude.
Ricky, go ahead and give us your tactics, and then Aaron, tell us your big idea, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, so I'm going to watch more of our content, look at our courses, start taking the courses, and then with you, get clarity, send confirmation email of what I heard, what I'm going to do next, so that there's no miscommunication. And yeah, listen to learn, so I'm not to be right. So even though, that's what I heard.
Okay. I would add a couple other things in there, but let's just start there. Okay? That's not a bad list.
Be coachable. Listen with the intent of being able to progress. Just like, just
You need to adapt, dude.
Yeah, putting in baseball
Adapt.
terms.
Oh, I know what Aaron's thing is. Aaron's thing is going to be conversion. His whole goal is to convert. His brain is swollen. It's not the good kind of swelling. And he needs to figure out how to apply what he's learned and to not get caught up in the big gestures, but the small things, and get traction on those. And he can rise in the world too. Honestly, if Aaron has learned everything that we think he's learned, there's no reason why he shouldn't be on the coaching page along with Ben, Matthew, and Greg and myself. Why? Why wouldn't he be? Makes no sense. Establish your authority, demonstrate you've learned a lot of things. The next thing you know, you're on that page, and then you're earning additional income, or you're rising in esteem, and your profile's going up in the world. We all desire to make progress, because without progress, we're going to be very unhappy beings, right? This is how you make progress. I think he's learned the lesson of being open to learning new things and growing in that way. We shall see. I think he's over that curve already, but I don't know. Aaron, what are your tactics now?
Tactics is
Take it.
if I'm whatever little mission I'm gonna set for myself, start with what is the goal I'm trying to accomplish, or what is the idea I'm trying to communicate if it's a creative thing, which it probably will be. And then think of the 5 things that it has to do, or what was it? The 5 most important things. And then in sequential order, which one's the most important? Start with that, and it should make the other 4 easier. And that should help me get things done quicker and faster and be better. What else? Well, you said the conversion thing,
Yes.
and start small. So
How will you do it?
Just gonna start answering tweets is a good one.
Yeah.
Or
Easy.
just make a post of something that I've learned.
Yeah.
It's simple as that. That sounds really easy. I feel like I could do
Isn't
that
it?
right now.
You should be doing it yesterday, but now we're ready. Let's do it.
Yes.
All right? There's no reason why you can't.
You're right. Honestly, just hearing you say that that's what I should do, now I'm like, oh, I'm going to for sure do it.
Good. Okay, that seemed pretty clear.
Yeah, I think that was it for me, right?
Yeah.
The ego one, I think, is still a bit of a problem for me, too. But at least I know now sometimes when it pops up or that it's a problem.
Where's that ego coming from? We're in the recap. I just want you to think about it.
Okay.
I don't want to start another
Right.
thread here. This is usually how after hours go. A new thread pops up and it's like 10:45. We're not done, right? Think about where that ego comes from all you guys.
Good question.
Ego can get you in trouble. Ego
And I know
clouds
it's an issue,
judgment.
too.
It's like the
that's why I
dark
brought
side.
it up. Like I knew it. I know
What?
it's a bad thing, but I'm happy that I know it's a bad thing. I'm at least happy that I'm aware of that. Like if I just was like I can't understand why, I'm like I know it's my ego.
Okay.
So I'm at least happy about that.
You know what you can label the ego? Because ego sounds like kind of a generic word.
Mm-hmm.
Label it something. Give it a personality. Think about a person who has a giant ego that you just abhor. Call it that. We don't have to say it right now.
Keep that
I
to
think
myself.
you know something you're about to say. Okay, we don't need to make any enemies right now.
Mm-hmm.
So think about that. It's like you're being like blah blah blah,
That's good.
right? A famous person that seems to be driven on ego, that's distasteful. Give it a name. Personify it. It'd be a lot easier to know, oh my God, I'm becoming like that person. See? If you say, oh, is this my ego? It's like, I don't know, is it my ego or not? It's okay. No problem.
I like what you said about the ego is your bias. Like that's what I'm.
That's a harder way to say it, right? Like, boom, it's your bias, man.
Because it's just a bias coming out, and biases are just, yeah,
Because we like to think we're unbiased.
yeah.
But everybody has an ego. Some smaller, some bigger. Jonah, what's your high level thing, man?
High level. Learn to disattach.
Detach.
Yeah, detach. Learn to detach. Speak with intent. Get clear thoughts.
But what's the high level thing, though? Those are tactics.
Better communicator.
Maybe.
Prioritize.
What was your original question? It's like, how do I overcome guilt? Right?
No, it was
You
how
have
do I
you.
speak succinctly with like all of those thoughts, and then
Organize all my many voices.
the second one was giving feedback.
Yeah.
So it seems like his is communication based. The theme for Jonah today.
Okay. I can accept that. I think you need to learn how to communicate internally and externally. Because it's multiple streams. The dialogue that you're having with yourself may be a reflection of the dialogue you have externally. When you feel guilty for giving people extra work, you've framed it as giving feedback is giving work. Giving bad feedback is giving unnecessary work. Giving high quality feedback is helping the person progress in their career and their life. So the internal dialogue is all messed up.
He definitely the internal dialogue with Jonah, I feel like is something he should work on, just because like he's hard on himself. He's super hard on himself.
As he should be.
Yeah.
We all are. You think I'm not hard on myself?
I don't think it's a negative trait to you though. Like yours uses you to push yourself forward. I feel like sometimes Jonah's.
Okay.
Could
That's
be a
something we
negative.
need to talk about. So somebody make a note of this real quick. Okay, the negative voice and what are we doing? The critical voice and how do we handle that? So Jonah's critical voice beats him down, pulls him in the dark hole. It's like the crab mentality. Oh, why would you do that? Is that your ego? And these are my friends. How can I? So it's like you're being a bad human being. When something bad happens to me, I try to flip it really quick and I think, what can I learn from this? How can I use this moment of wasted energy and effort and resources and make it a positive thing? The only way I know how to salvage a loss is to turn it into a learning opportunity. Then I didn't lose it for nothing. So if Jonah tells Aaron to do extra work for nothing, he's like beating himself, oh, you freaking idiot, why would you do this? I'm feeling guilty. That's not productive. The productive thing is, what did I learn from this? And if I could move forward, how would I do this differently? And then he wouldn't beat himself up. It's like, I could never learn that lesson without going through that.
Yeah.
That was the price I needed to pay to learn not to do this moving forward. And we don't expect to get anything for free. You don't go to a supermarket and it's like, give me that. You pay something. Well, lessons are paid through experience and stupidity, but if we pay it, then we know that that's the price. So the reason why I move in a positive direction is I've learned to reframe negative experiences as the cost of learning something. And I don't expect to get anything for free.
Just applying that to myself, so I'm smiling.
And that's how you become Zen master. A robot.
All right, Chris, you want to take us home?
Let's take us home. And I want to send A deep, heartfelt thanks to the Chill Boys for coming prepared. They've had a couple of weeks or months to prepare for this moment, and I think you guys brought up some juicy, deep bits. You're being very vulnerable and honest and transparent, and I think that's one of the main reasons why people tune in. I appreciate all 60 plus people I think that are still tuned into this. It's sticking out towards the end. I do want to let you guys know it is our intent to take the best of the after hours and turn them into podcasts. These are ideally suited for conversations. I also realize that most of our content requires people to lean in and to take notes. And the after hours thing is where they can put it on and do other tasks and feel like we're the co-pilots for the next 1, 2 to 4 hours. And I think that's the main reason why people tune in. It's like you're having conversations with friends. And since we're doing things on a scale that's usually above most of the people that are listening, I think they can see the potential problems that they're going to encounter as they grow and scale their creative business. And if that's not what it is, please tell me in the comments below. I do want to wish you well. I'm going to be off to Comic-Con pretty soon, and I hope it's my sincerest desire to go and see and meet you guys in person at some point in the future. So look out for events and notifications. Don't forget to like and comment and subscribe to this channel. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. And if I'm a jerk, let me know. If I'm helpful, let me know. Just let me know in the comments below. Let's do this before we wrap up. How do we find out about each one of you guys on Instagrizzle? Aaron?
Sleepy Castle.
Ricky Lucas.
And Jona?
Jona M. Garcia.
Good. You got rid of something, didn't you?
No, they'll find me. It's my face.
Did somebody have an underscore in their name?
Yeah,
before?
it's still there, but
Oh, okay.
He
didn't say it this time. Ricky Lucas.
Guy, you're gonna be like, that's not Ricky Lucas. You'll see a brown guy. That'll be
Yeah.
me.
Okay. That's it. Thank you very much, everybody, and I hope you guys have an amazing week. Be well.
Bye-bye.